星に瞬きを伝えて守るものがあるからきっと強くなれる。語るべき言葉なくした星の守りでは時の果て夢の果て闇に立ちすくんだ風を呼んでみたんだ空に向けて誰かを呼んでみたんだ光求めたソリチュードかすかなレゾナンス確かに届くロマンスそんな流れ星たちを抱き留めた明日が見えなくだって乗り越えなくちゃって奇跡の奇跡描き未来へつなぐ Growing High 心のフォトンが銀河にこぼれて道を強く照らす Burning Bright それぞれの思い秘めた星の守りでは空からの呼ぶ声に導かれた重ねる手と手には言葉なんかより伝わることがある熱い心通じ合った確かなレゾナンス見つけるのはエッセンス目指した意識の先がディスティネーション答えが見えなくてくじ
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another day of the Cyto 2024 Path to Pro Combine presented here by Blue Otter. My name is Grapes here alongside RMC, and we've got day 10, a one-block day here for you guys. 10 new players take the Rift. Of course, you've seen them all before, but you can take a look at the rosters below right now. And, we're getting closer and closer to the end of the online portion of this Combine. And of course, to that stage where the top 10 players will get selected to that boot camp in Los Angeles, RMC. And we've seen some pretty impressive performances, both from people that we've seen in the NACL in the past and also some new names like we see below.
And Grapes, to talk about this sort of countdown to the end of the online portion of the Combine, we've got a closer, more immediate countdown happening right now, 2 days before the first cut happens, and the first 5 players will get selected to go to LA. So for these players right now, we've kind of simplified the Combine, no more wacky things, no more world shots right now. It's all about the fearless. It's all back to the basics, about showing what you've got when you've got more freedom, really, to kind of express yourself. And that's what we continue to see here today. Nothing wonky, just basic fearless.
Yep, just going to be a true fearless 3-game block. Take a look at the players that will be competing together on your screens below. It's Dr. Calculus, Kryra, Utter, Levitate, and Zyko on Team 1. They're going to be coached by Ido today. And then on the other side, it's Quacker, Bio, Darkwings, Good Boy, and Dum Dum. They will be coached by Quacks. RMC, taking a look at some of these players right now, is there a matchup specifically that catches your eye, or are there any players that you are excited to watch today?
Definitely looking at the top lane. The match that we didn't get yesterday, Grapes, it was supposed to be Dr. Calculus up against Quacker, but unfortunately, because Quacker wasn't available and Crimson ended up subbing in for him. But today we will get the matchup. And that one's interesting to me because Quacker has been a beast in Tier 2, has really shown that he is not only an expert in a small champion pool, but he's expanded that champ pool. You can no longer ban him out. And full fearless hasn't really slowed him down whatsoever. On the other hand, Dr. Calculus, I remember Dr. Calculus last year, like in collegiate, and he was okay. But this year, he has skilled up massively, not just in collegiate, but in the NACL queue as well on Ducky Hunters. He has become somebody who can play whatever you need. You know, he can be that utility top laner, the tank top laner. He can be a carry. I still remember things like Shen being whipped out by him. And in this combine specifically, I think Dr. Calculus has been an absolute unit up top. So watching him and Quacker interact will be very interesting to see how that sort of tier 2, tier 3 divide, how big is that gap really?
Yeah, I feel like these two players have very similar career trajectories, albeit,
Sure.
separated by a couple of years. Quacker playing with the University of Illinois back in 2019, 2020, and then after that, getting his opportunity to play with amateur organizations like Wildcard, which eventually led him on the path to get up into the Tier 2 space where he's been for the last couple of years. Where on the other side, Calculus, we're seeing him just finish up his collegiate career at Western, where I agree with you. He never looked like a super standout top laner
Yeah.
with the Western Ontario team, but now in that summer split with the Ducky Getters definitely has been standing out, and this could be his pathway to making it up into the Tier 2 space, something that I know he is super looking forward to. Another matchup, speaking of the Ducky Getters, that I'm excited to take a look at here is the jungle between Kryra and Bio. Bio, bursting onto the scene basically
Yeah.
out of solo queue in the summer split with the Ducky Getters, whereas Kryra has been a name that has been impressing a lot of us, specifically on his recent NACL run with CCG.
Yeah, and within this combine as well, I think Cryer has been doing a fantastic job, kind of just doing what their team needs. I really like his sense of being able to carry and his engage that he's been showing here in the combine. He's really got that killer instinct. Bio, on the other hand, Bio also has a killer instinct. His carry performances have been good individually, but his utility support style jungling, I think, is something I want to see more of from him. Specifically, 2 days ago, he actually played with Dark Wings as well. And in that situation, it really did feel like when Bio was the carry and the focus of the team, he was absolutely popping off, but somehow the team couldn't quite coalesce around him. And I want to see today if maybe he can have a better time with it, with Quacker, with Dark Wings, with these sort of tier 2 experienced players, kind of flanking on solo lanes. Maybe that will allow Bio to shine a bit more.
Hopefully. I mean, he's definitely somebody that was super exciting on those carry picks this summer. And, you know, the question is, can you transfer those skills from being a carry jungler that like pops off in solo queue all the time to somebody who is able to play for the team a little bit more? He's going to have another resource-intensive player by his side in Dark Wings in the mid lane, who
Mm-hmm.
also has had himself a pretty impressive combine. He's going up against Utter, a player who
Yes.
is basically a rookie as well, I believe. Played on the nameless here in 2024, and definitely turned a lot of heads, although of course, it was only in the NACL qualifier space, whereas Darkwings has been a solid NACL player for the last couple of years.
Yeah, Utter, not a player I'm that familiar with, unfortunately. Again, as you mentioned, he has been the NACLQ scene, has made top 16, not only on Nameless in spring, but also in summer as well. And from what I've seen in the combine, his laning is actually really, really strong. He's been 1v1ing people, I think was yesterday he solo killed Aljun. Utter has looked really, really good individually. And I'm excited to see him play up into Dark Wings as well. Dark Wings, a veteran who doesn't usually lose lane. He's very hard to take advantage of, even if you're mechanically very good. So for Utter, this game, if he can win out against Dark Wings and can beat him at 1v1, very impressed. If he can't, then I want to see what happens to Utter outside of lane as well, whether he can be quite as impactful as he is in lane normally.
It should be a fun test for him against Darkwings as we head into the draft for game number 1. Reminder, no gimmicks or, twists and turns here in this day of the Combine. Just a 3-block of Fearless. Aurora, we've seen been banned a lot over this entire, session of the last couple of weeks. Is there anything that you're looking for in the draft specifically, like some experimentation out of some players? I know that Dr. Calculus and Quacker in the top lane have had, as you mentioned, champions that they are very, very comfortable on. Is this time to kind of expand? I guess it is because it is Combine.
Yeah, the thing about this combine too is it depends on whether the coach, how much influence the coach is having within the draft. Some coaches prefer to just let the players decide what they want to do. Other coaches taking a more hands-on approach. So I'm gonna assume for now, until I see something to the contrary, that we're just gonna see fairly meta bans taken away, things that are just generally good, right? Like there we go, Zaya, Sejuani, Yone, all those are just really meta. Aurora is kind of meta, but I think is also maybe targeted at Dr. Calculus a little bit, at Utter. Both these players really, really good at the Aurora. The Skarner just feels a bit more generic, I think.
Yeah, and you see already some bans towards that bottom lane as well, with the Zaya being banned away. Let's talk about these bottom lanes really quick as well, because Levitate and Zyko, two players that were in the NACL last split. Zyko, the all-pro first team member in summer with Dragonsteel, and Levitate, of course, in his rookie split impressing. They're playing against two players who have not been up to that stage just yet, Good Boy and Dum Dum. But, you know, in terms of matchups between these two lanes, you know, Levitate hasn't necessarily had, you know, a lot of super impressive performances in this combine so far. So it'll be interesting to see if, you know, this team 2 bot lane will be able to pick it up.
Yeah, and while Zyko has been doing really solid for himself, I think Good Boy and Dum Dum is interesting because Good Boy, while he hasn't played too much this year, in the past has always been a very stable bot laner, not somebody who kind of throws the lane. And Dum Dum has impressed me immensely. Dum Dum, especially when he's got a lead, is hyper aggressive and makes things happen. Now paired with Good Boy, somebody who we just said is more stable, I'm actually kind of interested to see how this plays out. If they don't have a lead, Dum Dum's aggression can very easily backfire. We do see the Corki coming in for the side of Team 1, a champion that got buffed on this patch, very strong, not just bot but mid as well, a flex pick that can go either way. And we're just seeing the Ashe come through for Good Boy, a very solid stable champion, fits the playstyle to a T. If you want to get aggressive with it, you can pick something like a Braum to get very lane oppressive, engage the points, play nicely. If not, you can always go utility if you start to fall behind.
And we paired alongside Darkwings on the Orianna, a very comfortable pick for him. He loves his control mages, although he loves his assassins as well. Deep down, everyone you might remember back in like 2020, that's where he really got his start. But very comfortable on these control mages. The Ori, of course, going to pair well with the Ashe, provide a lot of zone, provide a lot of heavy DPS as we get later on into this game, and probably going to see a support pick on 3 to round out that Ashe lane.
Yeah, either that or I'd like to see some sort of aggressive ball delivery system from the jungle role, right? Nocturne is available if you want to run with that. Something like J4 as well could go very well. And already you can see that Team 2 has a very solid backbone for an engage and team fight style composition. On the other side for Team 1, they go with the Cassante blinded for Dr. Calculus champion. He has shown a lot of proficiency on, and it's good to be able to soak engages coming in. It's also a good frontline unit for something like Corki if they want to go for more scaling, which they do, picking up the Hui in the mid lane. Or actually, I shouldn't call it for the mid lane just yet. I don't think Zyko is the Hui support style player, but
They can flex around though. Yeah, we're in a combine. Why not just like experiment a little bit here? Could even flex to the bot lane if you want to send the Corki mid as well. Although, yeah, just as you say, I don't think Zyko is the Hui support player. I don't know if Levitate's the Hui bot lane player just yet. So, you know, if we had to like put our full predictions on where these picks would go, it would probably be Corki in the bottom lane, Hui in the mid lane. But we do have to think about it just a little bit, as Quacker is going to select the Gnar in response to Calculus's Cassante, and we go to the second phase of bans.
Okay, so interesting. Not the support you predicted or the jungler I don't for either. Grapes, you know, there are lots of support options for engage still. Nautilus, Leona, Rakan, Alistar, even a Mumu if you want to. So I guess they can afford to sit there. Same thing with the jungle right now. There's so many different options you can kind of run with. They just wanted the winning matchup into the Cassante since that got shown. So that means both these teams potentially still looking for their supports and junglers.
We'll see. It looks like jungle targets here for Team 1. Supports targets so far here for Team 2 with that Nautilus ban away from Zyko. You know how solid he was on those engaged champions over this past year of NACL. Always a scary sight whenever he's on something that can just push a button instantaneously and allow himself to go in. We see an Ivern ban away from Kryra, which is not something that we've seen too often from this player, but he's been expanding his champion pool over the last couple of splits as well. You know, he still has his pocket pick Zac and things like that, but he's always somebody who's willing to play anything.
Yeah, I think just Ivern's just generically strong right now in the jungle. Anytime you've got any sort of skilling AD carry or marksman, it is a champion that can be a massive threat. So respect that they've taken that away. There we go, the Nocturne with the Vi taken away as well. I am almost expecting to see the jungle being picked up here just because that got pinched harder compared to the support pool. Again, things like J4 is still available. We've seen a couple of Wukongs as well if you wanted to go with that. There's a lot of knock up with that. You can use the Ashe as the primary engage instead.
Okay, so it looks like a Xin Zhao is going to be hovered, at least for the moment, and will be locked in here for Bio. Interesting to see that picked up blind. Now we saw Will select the Jarvan as an answer to this yesterday. But just overall, a very solid early game jungler, which is not necessarily something that we've seen from Bio. So a good test for him to see what he can accomplish here in the first few minutes of this game.
Yeah, despite not being a champion we've seen him play too much, I do feel like it should fit his wheelhouse a little bit. Aggression, the ability to trade very easily, and you have a lot more influence on the game while still being a big team fight threat with the Crescent Guard to be able to stop more range damage from coming through. Team A though, they'll have to pick both the support and their jungler right now. They go with the Rel, which I kind of like not only for their composition, but also as a deny away from Team B, because I think you talk about the Nautilus and how strong that could potentially be. Well, Rel with this composition as well, right? You don't have to be primary engaged. It's very easy to follow up on the Ashe. You have a great ball delivery system, and if you lock everybody in for the Gnar, for the Xin Zhao, it can be a massive problem.
So let's see what the final picks are here. As you said, jungle and support are needed. It's going to be Lilia picked up for Kryra and Zyko on the Rel. Know that Kryra loves playing, high farming champions, things that can really take advantage of early clears, and Lilia definitely is somebody who can do that.
Okay, I believe we've been told by production, Wookie Monster updating us, it's not a Lilia. It's actually a Nunu coming in. So
I love it.
Very, very interesting. Okay. Yeah, I don't hate it as well. I think Lilia would have been absolutely great. Another really strong scaling source, but Nunu gives you a little bit more of that early game strength with the ganks coming through. I don't know if it's going to be the AP Nunu that we saw at Worlds or more of a tank Nunu that we've seen here in the Combine so far. Now, to round things off for Team B, though, they pick their engaged support of choice. It's going to be the Rakan, very mobile champion, very easy to kind of deliver that ball into critical situations.
Speaking of, delivering. Yeah, we have the snowball here for Nunu as well. I wanted to be careful with how I phrased that, but you see a lot of immobile backline carries here for Team 2. That is prime targets for a Nunu in the early game, can get your carries ahead. Hui and Corki are both champions that if they can get that early lead, it can help them. It can help propel them into the late game a little bit faster. They can get their items. That is especially important on somebody like Corki who got those recent buffs. We've seen how powerful he can be as soon as he gets an early lead.
Yeah, just general skilling on the side of Team A, right? You just want bridges to get them to that state. And with the unit that you have, the absolute units of a Kasante, a Rel, potentially a tank Nunu as well, it will be a little bit difficult for Team B to kind of try and play front to back. They've really got to find a way to get that ball delivery into the back, onto that Corki, onto that way, and take them out really quickly. But Team B as a whole, I think, have a more a more balanced approach to the game, right? Like they aren't going to necessarily get outskilled. Ashe skills pretty well. Orianna can always hit critical shockwaves. Gnar can be a bigger split push threat, I feel like, into the Kasante. Then the Kasante can be vice versa. You've got the Xin Zhao for strong early games as well. Ashe can be oppressive as well. So much more balanced approach to the game. It will come down to team fights for Team B and whether they can actually find the proper engages, find those proper shockwaves, and not have to just deal with the front to back of skill and compositions.
Because if they can do that, it's the Wombo combo that I'm really liking here for Team 2, right? You have the Shockwave, you have the Gnar ultimate, Rakan can set everybody up as well. So if they can get to that stage, if they can set up those combos, will be interesting and will be exciting to see. I will say, yesterday in the Combine, we did see a Nocturne Ori get pulled out here, and it didn't they weren't necessarily able to find those angles all the time, resulted in that team actually losing the game. So while you do have the Wombo combo potential, it's the ability to set it up that ends up becoming an interesting thing to monitor here before we get into game.
Yeah, we've seen, and that's part of the skill involved for the players as well, right? We've seen a lot of teams figure out how to deal with Wombo combos by splitting up, making sure that you're not all caught together. And likewise, in this situation as well, Team A, with the Corki, with the Hui, you can get one of them. As long as they're not together, the other one can potentially carry the fight. And you've got to be worried about the Nunu coming at you as well. We talk a lot about how Team B can look for their engages for their Wombo combo, but let's not forget Magnet Storm plus Absolute Zero can cause absolute havoc as well on the side of Team B. Not just damage-wise, but just trying to get through all of that CC as well. The slows that you're trying to cut through, the just max lockdown that Magnet Storm gives you. And you don't have great ways to deal with the snowball from Nunu either. Somebody's got to tank this. It's got to be the Xin Zhao or a Mega Gnar, right? Rakan doesn't really get tanky till later on. You don't have good ways to stop it. Crescent Guard, you don't want to be burning that on just a snowball. So Team A, certainly lots of ways to cause chaos disruption and make sure that Team B don't have an easy way to find their win cons.
Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Nunu in solo queue over the last couple of weeks. Been very fun, especially because of your ability to control neutral objectives. You have that consume. You can combine that with your smite and get like a 2,000 damage execute on the dragon or the baron. Always super important. I also know you also can very easily, one-shot one of the grubs early game as well. So a lot of control over these neutral objectives. So That'll be an interesting thing to watch. I believe we're also getting word from production that the sides might have been swapped a little bit. I want to wait exactly
Okay.
for confirmation on what that means, but what it could mean is that these players are actually on the other teams navigating these champions. I want to just wait. Okay, it looks like it looks like Wookie has already done that for us here. So team 2
Okay.
is on the blue side, team 1 is on the red side, and all that talk about, oh, this guy's good on this champion, this guy's good on that champion, it kind of all goes out the window now. Let's reevaluate. Does this draft make you more or less interested in how things are gonna go now?
I mean, okay, draft-wise, I do think the players are all good enough that they can execute the compositions regardless. I mean, it's a little bit sad that it's not going to be Darkling's or Orianna, but I mean, Utter's Orianna will be interesting to watch as well, considering we've seen Utter really be more of a lane-aggressive player, which Orianna can be, but it's a little bit more exposed without escapes available. The main thing for me that I'm kind of more interested in with the swaps and nameplates is going to be the jungle role, because now Bio on something like a Nunu playing much more aggressively, Kryra on the Xin Zhao. Again, not a champion I really think of when I think of Kryra as well.
He's had a couple games on it, but it's not like his namesake almost. It's not
Yeah.
the thing you always think about with Kryra, but I think he has played a couple of games on it in this last year.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how that one plays out and how well these players can kind of play that. Bio as well on the Nunu. I tend to think of Bio as more of a self-reliant jungler, right? Like he wants to bring the damage so that he can finish things off. Nunu not really that style of champion. Even when you do build him AP, often you're not looking to solo out your opponent. You're looking to put that big burst down, and then you need somebody else to help you kind of clean up there. So much more team-reliant champion as well. So I think that's the biggest change to me, Grapes. I'm curious if there's another sort of matchup that you'd be looking at or players that you're looking at here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Bio and his play style, how it normally fits hard carry junglers, things that he can do things with by himself. The Nunu, as you said, not that. So that'll be my most interesting thing to look at here. It looks like, according to our production as well, Bio played this Nunu yesterday, last night, and it didn't end up going so well for him. So an interesting thing to take a note of. Maybe this is something he's been trying to add to his pool. Of course, seeing Inspired pick it at Worlds definitely inspiring maybe to some of these pro players if they want to go on that path to pro. So excited to see what that looks like. I also think that Quacker on the Cassante is probably, I think he's a better Cassante player than maybe Dr. Calculus is. I think Calculus on this Gnar is a little bit more intriguing to me. But overall, I think that these are all players that can execute on either one of these champions. So I'm not super surprised to see it go either way, except for, of course, that jungle matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of those original champions that Quacker was kind of really known for in terms of when he was considered to have a limited champion pool. So the fact that his champion pool has grown hasn't taken away from his ability to play those champions that he was very familiar with in the past. And for Dr. Calculus, one thing I kind of really like about Dr. Calculus this year, that now that he's kind of risen into the limelight, is that he doesn't really have a champion that you really associate with him necessarily. He's truly got a champion ocean. He'll play anything and everything under the sun that the team needs. Now, it doesn't always work out great, like the Garen he played yesterday. On paper, it was good, but then he didn't quite seem to understand all the intricacies of that particular champion the way we've seen from players like Loose Hater in the past. Now, with the Gnar, though, I think that's a much more common meta champion. And for Dr. Calculus, I would expect him to be able to play this matchup well. It's a very common one to see Gnar into Cassante.
Yeah, I mean, these top laners, as we said, very different stories, at least so far in their careers, but they're following similar paths. The question is, can somebody like Calculus get up to that higher stage? Because definitely was a surprise to see him performing so well in the summer split this year, but he basically, was able to look like one of the best tier 3 top laners on the Ducky Getters and make it into the promotion tournament. That was a very impressive step for him in his career, and now is looking for another step in his career as he is here in the Path to Pro Combine. So getting that matchup opportunity against Cracker. He played against Crimson yesterday, who was also playing in the NACL last split, and had mixed results there. But I think a very good learning experience for both him and other players who have not been at that NACL stage yet. You look at Bio, Utter, Good Boy, and Dum Dum.
Part of me just wonders if we're gonna see Bio just cap that lane, since they were both on the same team, right? Like, Bio might know maybe Dr. Calculus's habits and how he likes to play that top side, and be like, okay, guys, I know Dr. Calculus, he's gonna push out here, we're gonna get top side, or something. Or maybe the opposite happens, and Dr. Calculus is telling his team, hey, Bio likes to invade on this or something like that, and just kind of collapse. And it's always interesting to me to see former teammates play against each other, because it can get a little wacky at times.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hopefully it's all fun and there wasn't any beef that has to be settled here on the Combine Rift, right? But
Beef? No, they're duckies, not cows, Grapes.
That is true. They do. Is there a word? No, you just say duck, right? There's no like, you know how some animals you say a different word for their meat,
mutton
like
for
deer.
sheep, beef.
You say venison and things like that. I think it's just ducks. All that to say, it seemed like Ducky Gators was a very friendly team. It seemed like it was like the 5 friends in a dream kind of style of squad. So I hope that they still are all in good fun here as we are on to the Rift game number 1 of our first and only block of the Path2Pro Combine for today. We're having a fine Wednesday afternoon as we will start things off today.
And DumDum getting aggressive right now, facing off against Zyko and Utter, completely unfazed, not afraid though. Yeah, just emoting right now. We did also see Kryra getting out-traded by 1 auto.
Oh, Bio
though?
What are we doing? He's maybe in a lot of trouble, has to flash away. And now Darkwings is taken below half HP. Good Boy, who was playing the Hui, by the way, is going to have to take a lot of health as well. So a good trade overall for our red side. And it means that Bio is going to be very low on HP on his first clear.
In my head canon, that's Dr. Calculus telling his team Bio's invading. Bio invaded. Fair enough. But let's talk a little bit about the champion swaps that we saw come through. Because we did touch on the possibility of it in draft, but we didn't actually expect it to come through. It is, as you mentioned, Good Boy on this way in this bot lane instead, and I do think the Hui into Ashe matchup a little bit more comfortable than Corki early on, because Corki doesn't trade super effectively into the range that Ashe has. And in the mid lane as well, I do think Corki into Orianna is not a bad matchup for Corki whatsoever. He gets to get that pressure down. So I do like the lane swap that we saw coming through.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I feel like Good Boy, I know him as more of a player who is a little bit more flexible in terms of this champion pool, can play some of these unorthodox styles, and so not surprised to see him be willing and able to pick up this Hui pick down in the bottom lane. Right now we see Zyko going in and going to be matched with an engage of DumDum himself. Zyko at half HP, but DumDum is the one who has to flash away, who was mispositioned after that crash down, took him just a little bit too far.
Yeah, and that was the big question we had about DumDum, right? We've seen DumDum win out lanes, and the moment he gets that lead, he really pushes up the pressure and he snowballs incredibly effectively. But what happens when he falls behind and or has a sort of bot lane pairing that isn't traditional? For example, Hui, he's a mage. He's not your traditional marksman. He's not going to be able to pump out that sustained damage after the initial start of the trade. He's all about short bursts of damage, and we saw that there. DumDum actually aggressing. If that was a marksman, hey, maybe Good Boy is able to pull up a bit more effectively. As it stands though, having to flash back out will cost DumDum a little bit in the upcoming trades. Yeah,
and it shouldn't matter too much because Bio was around the bottom side of the map. Interesting to note, though, that it was a nice job by Team 1, who is on the red side right now, that as soon as they spotted out Bio in the enemy jungle upon level 1, they placed wards both on the red buff and the blue buff. So the red team right now, they know exactly where Bio has been for the entirety of his clear. It hasn't meant that there's been any invades from Cryo specifically, but it does help their lane, specifically the bottom lane, who's been pretty heavily pushed up for the majority of this lane phase.
Now, the thing with Nunu, though, is even if you know where Nunu is, the speed of the ganks with that gigantic snowball does make it a little bit tricky at times. Your lanes all kind of have to play safe, and so being able to track will be useful. Hold up, though, Good Boy.
Yeah, at 400 HP. Meanwhile, there's a gank in the mid lane as well, as it looks like a snowball did come through. Utter able to escape without burning the flashes. Bio took a big tower shot, and will be forced to retreat back to the Scuttle Crab on the top side. So we're seeing some heavy trading both in the mid and the bottom lane. Darkwings at 300 HP, trading with Utter. Both mid laners are comfortable because they know the other jungler is here, but do they know that it's about to become a 2v2? Bio, as soon as he finishes the crab, is channeling it back. Will he use the snowball to go back in onto Utter, or do they know that something fishy's happening?
I mean, for Red Team, they're the ones with the information and knowledge that Bio is probably in the area.
Okay, another knockup lands on a good boy. He's being very aggressive, not using the flash just yet because he knows that he can survive. Meanwhile, Levitate has Ignite ticking onto him, but he levels up just in time. Here comes Kryra now, looking for the Wind Becomes Lightning, not going to connect, and it might be a dive force. There's the flash, and it's Kryra picking up first blood, and the heal comes out from Psycho as well, which will allow him to survive as Levitate crashes this wave under the tower. Here comes the snowball. It looks like Bio is going to try his hand at a gank at Levitate. Teleport comes in as well as Quacker now wants to join the party. Zyko with a nice cancel of the crash down will prevent from Dum Dum finishing off the engage. It's actually Good Boy arriving to the party with that TP. They land the W and a three-man snowball onto the red squad. Kryra taking low. The Wind Becomes Lightning does not connect, and it's a double kill in for Good Boy. Zyko forced to retreat as Team 2 come up 2 for 1.
And that's so unfortunate for Levitate. You saw the aggression he wanted to get, but just not respecting the fact that Good Boy has so much AoE. He's a mage, not a marksman, and will ultimately pay the price. That's going to be Dragon going over the way of Bio as well. And an early Ocean Dragon really going to benefit all the lanes. I mean, topside Quacker melee into range as a tankier unit, really going to enjoy that Ocean. Bot side with the trades that are coming across as well, because Good Boy and Dum Dum want short trades with cooldown periods in between. That Ocean Drake is going to get so much value.
A lot of healing right now as it looks like Bio should be able to pick it up rather easily. It might come at the cost of his mid laner as Darkwing splashes into the grand entrance just in time.
Oh!
By Dum Dum to cancel that engage here from Utter, predicting that flash almost, but it makes it a 1-for-1 trade as both mid laners will go down.
Yeah, really good roam up from Dum Dum again to try and get that pressure down across the map. Unfortunately for the red team, Udder wasn't the one to, or pardon me, unfortunately for blue team, it wasn't Darkwing who secured the kill. It was Dum Dum getting the kill compared to Udder getting that one. So red team going to be happy with that. And Kryra is going to be able to get the Void Grubs as well. They already lost out the Dragon, had no chance of that. But with that trade in the mid lane, that actually buys the space for Kryra to get this, and Bio can't contest.
So 3 grubs is the trade for Bio, picking up that Ocean Dragon. Looks like Kryra will just pick that up very, very easily. Right now, game very, very close, very even. Of course, gold allocated in different locations right now for Team 2. It's all in that bottom lane as Good Boy has himself the 2 kills and Dum Dum has the other, whereas the mid jungle of Team 1 could be at an advantage for the next little bit with both Kryra and Utter having a kill.
I'm actually curious because I don't feel like Darkwing might be as far up as the CS might suggest. Thank you to our producer Wookie for showing us that. Yeah, as you can see, Udder's actually up in the mid lane right now, surprisingly. And the bot side's the opposite situation, where Levitate's been getting the pressure down, getting the CS advantage, but Good Boy's kills actually puts him up above. So the teams are pretty much dead even. I'd argue, 200 gold difference is not significant enough. It's not even a component of an item. So the teams are going to be approaching the level 6 part of the game pretty much dead even, and I want to see how they're able to use their ults, how they're able to use their ganks as well, because both the junglers, Nunu and Jinzhao, they're not junglers who rely on their ultimates to get their ganks off. Instead, it's more about the lanes, the fact that now Ashe has her ultimate, that Wei has Aspiring Despair as well. That's where the CC component, the big burst component is going to be coming from.
Like that little freeze that Dr. Calculus has set up, it makes Quacker, be in an uncomfortable position as that Cassante, as he is going to try his best to crash that wave. Right now we see both junglers making their way back down towards the bottom side. Bio has it level 6 as it's Kryra, and it's going to be Zyko to start the engagement, a 2-man grand entrance, but here comes the follow-up. Both Zyko is not level 6 just yet, as it's going to be the Hoi ultimate that hits onto both bot lane members. Levitate will fall, the root lands on a Zyko as Bio will pick that kill up. Just a bit of a misplay there from the bottom lane, the experienced bottom lane of Team 1.
Yeah, and it's a lack of information. And in this case, both bot laners weren't aware of where the enemy jungler was, and Nunu's just that much faster. I also just want to laud Dum Dum. Again, we had questions of, okay, we know Dum Dum's good when he's ahead, but how does he do when he's behind? Now, it wasn't quite a behind situation, but you can see that sense, the engaged sense that Dum Dum has was still very much well and alive in that play. Crashing down, catching two, most importantly, catching the Ashe as well, the slowest member, the member who can't really get away without flash available, was what allowed Team 2, the blue side, to really be able to power in with that mobility that Bio has on this Nunu. And we're talking about, hey, your junglers need your lanes to set them up. Team 2's spot lane set up better.
Absolutely, yeah. And he, Good Boy, we had that nice Dragon as well to force the two members to be crowd control before Dum Dum went in. Just really well executed on both sides there. And Bio was there to help out as well. We can see he's actually going to be going to tank build with that Knight's Vow picked up first. So no AP, at least just yet, unless we get wonky later on.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I was wondering if we get AP build because there's not a ton of true tanks on the side of Team 1. But I do think the tank build, when you're looking at Darkwings and Good Boy to be hyper carries in the late game, certainly works out well as well. And considering that Bio isn't necessarily that far ahead, going the supportive route, this is sort of a budget build when you go with something like the Knight's Vow. And Darkwings has been doing fine in the CS department, is farming up a storm. Bot side, Good Boy getting those kills, though. In that last exchange, it was Dum Dum picking up the kills, unfortunately. But yeah. Good Boy, being accelerated as he is already good enough.
Yeah, we'll say the Knight's Vow is an interesting pickup, very, very much on the support side. As you see now, level 6 advantage picked up for Dum Dum. Goes for the crash down, but will not be able to connect, as Zyko was able to burn the heal, get a little bit of extra movement speed to escape. Meanwhile, on the top side, here comes that snowball, but it's leaked away from very nicely by Dr. Calculus. He will get out safe.
Is that the right Gnar skin that throws a building instead of a stone?
I forget which one actually does it. Is it the Dino Gnar? Dino Gnar does that, right?
I can't recall. What came to mind was literally the snowball could not hit the broadside of a building.
Oh,
but Good Boy can.
Okay. Nicely done there. Yeah, I guess by Dum Dum and Good Boy setting that one up. It looks like Levitate went back to base, and Zyko was maybe either trying to hold the wave under the tower or trying to go for a reset on his own, but this was a little bit delayed, and that ended up resulting in Good Boy and Dum Dum catching him out.
Yeah, and with the vision that Team 2 have in that bot side, with the wards, my suspicion would just be that they knew they were recalling and managed to catch Zyko after Levitate completed his for the 2v1 situation. Could be wrong. Either way, though, Team 1, despite losing the support on the bot side, will still be the team to secure the Drake on that bot half of the map. And splitting the Drakes 1 and 1 while they kind of sacrifice the Grubs. So both Dragons and Grubs right now split kind of equally. We're not seeing any big macro advantages for either team.
Right now it's just the gold, largely it consisting of a lead towards the bottom side of the map because Good Boy and Dum Dum have been able to pick up some kills. And that's a very impressive thing to see, RMC, because as we mentioned coming into this game, these are two NACL players that these guys are playing against, and whether it's on their more unorthodox picks like the way bottom lane, the unique engagements that Dum Dum's been able to find, it's been working well for them so far.
I think what's scariest too is the fact that Good Boy is doing this without his big item power spike, right? He's got the Archangel staff, but it's not Seraph Embrace just yet. And when it does actually fully stack, that's when he's going to be starting to hit like a truck. If he can already find these kills, find these wins before that, it doesn't get easier for Levitate and Zyko.
Yeah, I mean, Ash is definitely somebody who enjoys being ahead. You can really oppress people with that flow. But right now, just relegated to throwing out volleys and staying out of harm's reach, at least for the moment. And Bio, again, kind of looking for a little bit of a play. Nice job by Levitate to spot him out here with the volley, making sure that there is no risk of them going down. One right now, Quacker and Calculus trading a little bit, nicely dashed away from by Quacker to make sure that Gnar does not connect.
Okay, not bad. We're seeing Quacker actually win out on that trade. That hasn't been what we've been seeing in terms of pressure. It has been Dr. Calculus pushing in for the most part up to this moment. But Quacker doing a wonderful job on this melee champion, actually not falling behind in CS whatsoever, still being very, very relevant in the game. And we've not seen too much jungle attention actually into the top side. We saw Bio, I think, throw one gank up there with a snowball and then just kind of walk away. Everything for this game feels like it's been around that bot side. Both junglers often there at the same time, whether or not the gank actually goes through.
And that's resulted in, of course, so far better things for Team 2. However, you look across the map, and right now it's actually Darkwings who's been able to pick up a bit of a farm lead over Utter, who also went for that Archangel start. Darkwings having that full SSB for right now, maybe just a bit stronger, although both of the champions wanting to get to a later portion of this game where they really can have their damage be pumped out. I think potentially we'll see a fight around this Rift Herald though, RMC, as we see Levitate and Zyko, at least Zyko, Dum Dum and Good Boy tear around the top side of the map, as it looks like Levitate and Zyko are pushing out mid lane as the turret plates do finally fall. See who is the one to pull the trigger first. Right now, mid prio is the name of the game, and now both teams will make their way towards the Herald.
And I like that both these teams recognize the timing of the Herald. They lane swapped at the same time, pretty much. It wasn't like, oh, one team kind of lagging behind the other. What is interesting to me, though, is the fact that Team 2 is so much stronger in their bot side and mid lane right now.
Yeah, I mean, nice trade of engages right there. Teleport is actually going to come in here by Dr. Calculus, as it will be matched by Quacker, who just walked up to the mid lane instead. So already a resource advantage generated for Team 2. Can Team 1 win the fight in response? Blue lane's on to levitate, he's chunked about half HP. That Rift Herald's about 2,000 HP. This is prime bio territory to just chomp it away, and he will. And there's a nice engage from Dum Dum as well. Utter still taken very low, but will be able to survive without going down. It will be Dum Dum the first to fall, and now levitated in. Calculus with a huge Gnar ultimate. Good boy forced to flash, but the damage from Darkwing might be too much. He lands one rocket, he lands another, he valks forward for a triple kill, and it'll be an ace picked up for team number 2, only losing their support.
And that's fine. Dum Dum did his job. Even Dum Dum going down the early parts of the fight did not matter. He was just there as a distraction to be able to set up the Herald take. And Team 2, immediately, they're going to deploy this Herald and try and break down the mid outer turret with Dark Wings there. This is going to be an easy take. I don't know if they can get much more on the inner. Grapes, the fight itself, though, that was such an interesting fight because Team 1 wasn't really set up. As you pointed out, Quacker walked into the mid lane. Dr. Calculus left a little bit behind, had to TP in there, and Dr. Calculus had 0 rage bar going to the fight. So Team 1 was not really in a place to contest the initial Herald, but I thought they did a good job holding out and stacking up the rage bar. Dr. Calculus gets an amazing engage, but it just took too long. And throughout the entirety of that happening, Dark Wings and Good Boy were just landing the poke over and over and over again. So when they actually commit, they grouped up a little bit too much, and Dark Wings just got to clean house.
And you know that our ultimate hit a lot of players on team number 2, but it did not hit Dark Wings, who now is at 3-1-3. We mentioned how, you know, not getting that early kill could have been a bit of a downside. He's got plenty of gold right now as he works towards his Infinity Edge as his second item. Utter not able to do as much in that situation, and because of that, Team 1 down 11-3 in kills, 4,000 gold, and it'll be Bio and the rest of his squad picking up the second Dragon.
And Utter's been doing a good job in this combine for the most part, as he gets run down by Quacker there.
Quacker taken rather low.
But with this,
connect on the Intofo strikes. It's gonna be close, but Quacker ends up on top. That's the caster curse we all know and love. He's gonna try to channel his back, but I don't think he's long for this world. He's gonna go down. Nice shutdown. Going the way fire.
You know what? I stand by what I said. Utter was doing a good job. He even go down the 1v1 situation down there. Yeah, and especially when you're playing into a top laner, right? Top laners are expected to win out the trades against both mages and AD carries once they're on top of them. Utter was one dissonance away from being able to win that out. And managed to stall long enough for his team to back him up, despite not having the Nunu on the other side. Xinjiao a lot slower on that. Team 1 as a whole able to capitalize on that. They're going to find the outer turret. Will they overstay, though?
Yeah, it looks like so far, Crier's doing a nice job at making sure that Dum Dum is unable to do much, but look at the flank. Utter, he teleported behind them, but he's gonna get rooted up by the Magnus Storm as well as Good Boy, just pumping out tons of damage. Now Dark Wings comes in with a teleport, and Bio on the chase with the snowball will land the knockup onto Zyko, who grand entrance away. And it looks like it'll only be one going down, but a questionable death at that, with Utter going for that TP flank on the Orianna.
One might say utterly questionable from that particular flank. A Shockwave was up and available. I actually didn't get the opportunity to use it. And I just, that has to be a miscommunication from the team. He was expecting the team to go a little bit harder, but Dum Dum was kind of able to get over that wall, and Kryra and Zyko weren't quite able to follow. So what should have been a great play from Team 1, unfortunately gets stifled by better play from Team 2, collapsing in. They're able to answer back turret for turret. And again, more kills going the way of Team 2. This is starting to become a problem. The gold difference starting to balloon. There is a 5,000 advantage, and we talked about how Team 1's composition is, you know, they're flatter, they're more balanced, they have strength at pretty much every stage of the game. But we're starting to hit that point where Team 2 is going to hit their power spike, and that's going to feel so much more satisfying.
Absolutely, especially with, you know, how good Darkwing has been performing so far. Quacker in some trouble, going to get caught out in a 1v3. The boulder will connect. I think that is the building here.
Okay, it is, yeah.
It's Chroma, it looks like, here for Dr. Calculus, which is why I was confused for a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough. I thought it was the skin, but the color looked a bit different, so I
Yeah.
just wasn't 100% sure. I'm not great at skins either. Now, they did send a lot of resources to make that play happen. They did use a whole bunch of ultimates as well, and while all that was happening, Team 2, they just leave Quacker for dead, rightfully so, and they are pushing elsewhere. They find the outer turret in the bot lane to keep themselves ahead in terms of turret. They've taken all the outer turrets right now, and Utter, without TP, without Shockwave, cannot join in this bot side.
Like Dum got a little bit too far forward, but gonna pop the Magnet Storm as well as the Snowball connecting in from Bio. The problem is not a lot of damage until Darkwing arrives to fight. Team 1 is allowed to retaliate, at least for the moment. Wales goes wide. Looks like that is going to be the end of that engage. No objectives just yet on the bottom side of the map. The Baron is about to spawn. So it looks like resets and reevaluations of the situation could be in order, but right now Dum and Darkwing get caught out on a back timer. Nice flash away from the arrow, but Zyko still looking to engage. Snowball going to zone away the rest of the red team. Nice job by Bio to make sure his support lives.
I'm actually really impressed by both these supports and how well they're using their mobility. We don't think of Rel as necessarily the most mobile champion around, but Dum's been making great use of the walls with the flashes, with the crash downs to get out of dangerous situations. And Zyko's constant aggression with the mobility, the signature mobility of Rakan, has also really stopped Team 2 from being able to take massive advantages of some of the leads that they're getting in these fights. So huge props to them.
The trade here will be... No! Not going to be able to finish off the turret. Oh, it's so low. And now Calculus might pay for it with his life.
Okay.
Uses an R ultimate to get Darkwings away. How much HP is that after? Are we close? 106.
106.
Ah. Okay, it was like 2 autos, I guess. Feel a little bit better about that.
Yeah, still really, really close. And now Dr. Calculus kind of being forced all the way back to base to reset, levitate.
Hey.
Yeah, he did
Wow.
flash.
That's the power of Nunu right there. Just burning those summoner spells because that snowball is so threatening. Again, Quacker has been caught out here on the top side of the map as Kryra going forward.
Seems backing him up.
Looking for the engage as well, but the follow-up is here from Bio. And now it's Team 1 that are out of position a little bit, looking to overextend for the Team 2 top laner. Zyko able to escape for now as he uses that grand entrance to escape. Utter, the spiraling despair, and will get knocked up here by Dum. The Maximum comes through as well. Good boy now unstoppable in this game. And the blue team running away with this one. They get 2 more off of what the red team thought was an overextension.
No, he doesn't get over the wall.
Dum. He doesn't go over the wall as he so desired, but it's not going to matter. The Baron's going to be started up.
That's Calculus on the TP, looking for the re-engage. Good boy without his front line.
So aggressive here from the Hui. Now going to get
perfect
by his
timing!
support, and Darkwings arrives just in the nick of time. He picks up 2, and now it's a DNA to the Baron, secured for 2 seconds.
How is Team 2 doing this over and over again, Graves? I don't understand. We're seeing TPs come in from Dr. Calculus repeatedly to get to the fight, and he's getting there. And then you see Quacker just walk up from bot lane. We see Darkwings walk up from bot lane, not using their TPs, and they get to the fight at the critical times. They're able to turn the tides, and this game is running way faster than a Nunu snowball right now. Baron down already. Was that a 9,000 gold lead now for Team 2? As Soul Point is spawned onto the map for an Infernal. Team 1 has some wave clear, but at this point in the game, I'm half expecting Team 2 to just dive under those turrets. I think they have enough burst damage that they could cut through even maybe the Xin Zhao at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw what happened even when Team 1 was overextending for Quacker, who was able to survive for so long, and you have to praise him for that. But when they are separated, they are not utilizing their Wombo combo like we talked about in draft the same way, and it just doesn't mean that they're in the best position to win these fights, to win this game. It'll be Bio securing Dragon number 3 as they get to Infernal Soul Points, and now resources will be allocated to try to break open some of these inner towers and get a hold of the Team 1 base.
And as you can see, Bio just running right in. Ooh, on the turret.
Pops up for a little bit of health. Did not take power aggro because of that. The Absolute Zero comes through. Kryra very, very low, but not going to die just yet. The Crescent Guard keeps him alive. Darkseid now dominating as the rocket finally will connect. So it'll just be the Team 1 jungler that falls as Bio gets away with highway robbery there underneath the turret.
Dr. Calculus on the flank with flash available, but Team 2 were fully aware of it. Darkwing's keeping the vision on that now, making sure they'll be able to get the turret and back out. Dum on his own right now, though.
Yeah, nice. He is in trouble a little bit, but it's just like
he's
pumping out some damage. Utter was just too far away. And right now, here's the problem, RMC. Utter and Levitate are just not nearly enough damage to deal with the front line or even the back line of Team 2. Dark Wings and Good Boy just do so much more at this point in the game.
Yeah, Quacker and Bio just being such unstoppable units. Same with Dum Dum right now. And it's the aggression that they're not playing defensive necessarily. They're distracting everybody by threatening the dive onto you, threatening the kill onto you. So Levitate and Utter can't focus on trying to find Dark Wings and Good Boy. And speaking of Good Boy as well, 7, 1, and 9 on this way. Played the lane to nigh perfection, getting those 2 early kills, backing up the ganks from Bio. And in the fight so far, Good Boy's positioning means that there's no real risk of him dying at any time. He outranges the Ashe and the Orianna, and he's just getting so much free time. Having this front line of Quacker and Bio not dying is directly benefiting Good Boy the most, because he's getting multiple spell rotations off in these fights.
Really impressive from Good Boy on an unorthodox champion like the Hui in the bottom lane, and having such an amazing performance right now. Darkwing and Bio looking to combine, forcing to take Utter down underneath the tier 2 turret. Nice follow-up damage, but it's not going to be enough as Bio goes on a killing spree, and Dum Dum with a really nice Magnet Storm to lock up the Team 1 bottom lane. It allows for Darkwings to pick up his 8th kill of the game, and the blue team is running away with this one here. They pick up another tier 2 turret. The Baron buff might have just expired, but it's not going to stop them from sieging the base.
Yeah, and with the carries down, Utter and Levitate, there's just no threat to come through from Team 1 to be able to dissuade Team 2 from getting in there. Oh my goodness, Dr. Calculus!
Oh, just barely flashes away from that Q. The burn is ticking, but it's not going to be enough. Good Boy still tanking underneath the Nexus turrets now, but there's just too much peel for these main carries with this composition unlocked. Inhibitor down in the top side of the map. All 5 members of the blue team still alive, but Team 1 have something to say about it. They'll be able to. There's just not enough in terms of resources to go for something. Might be a last-minute desperation play right now as the blue team escapes, but there's no good wards for Calculus to teleport to, so it's going to be Team 2 getting out safe.
And no tools. Unfortunately, Shockwave just came up for Utter. Enchanted Crystal Arrow was not available for Levitate when he respawned, so they didn't have a good way to try and lock down and chase Team 2, and I'm honestly not sure, Grapes, if that's a good or a bad thing, because they did try and fight 13k down. I mean, that was 10k item advantage at least.
Yep.
There still might have been the turn, and for Team 1 at this point, you're desperate. You just got to make a play right now. That's all I want to see from them. If you play it standard, you try to play it safe, it's just going to be game over.
We'll see if the red team can do anything about it, because they are at a tremendous deficit right now. It's going to start with diving the main carries. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow does not land onto Good Boy, and the Hui is still at full HP. Now here comes Quacker. He pops the ghost. He's looking to dance. Snowball going to come in from Bio as well. Who will it connect onto? Just to support, as Psycho will have to use the Grand Entrance once more to get away. A nice Gnarl ultimate comes down from Calculus. Pyro looking to dive the back line. Will he find enough damage to take Good Boy down? He will not! As the Hui will live, and the front line doing the work for the blue team on the other side. Bio in a 1v3 will take down Levitate on his own. Land another Snowball to make sure Calculus can't escape, and that's going to be the game. 26-5 is the kill counter. A 15,000 gold lead has been opened up, and it'll be Team 2 picking up the first win of our 3-block here at the Path2Pro Combine.
And to be fair to Team 2 with their win, it was a snowball. It was a very steady snowball. This wasn't an avalanche coming through. They just didn't give Team 1 any opportunities to really come back in, and it feels like it's really solid laning across the board that got them all these advantages. We talked about how Quacker just kind of held the top lane for the most part, then became that absolute unit that K'Sante always wants to be. Bio's ganks were solid. He did fall behind in farm in order to keep that pressure up, but he did just that. Darkwings was not very involved in too much action in the early game. He just built up a very solid CS lead, and it was the bot lane where we saw a lot of action. And even there, a lot of it I feel like was just Good Boy not giving any opportunities, Dum Dum being the one to apply the pressure when Bio was in a good state. Really solid fundamentals coming through from Team 2.
Take a look at the damage charts right now. Utter actually leading the way for his team, but with nothing compared to the might that Hui and Corki were able to provide once they got those early leads. Darkwings did a good job at farming, at least at the start of the game, getting that CS advantage. That's the difference in terms of him picking up those couple of kills and really snowballing this game, as Nunu was also on his team. So really nice job from Team 2 as they pick up the first game of this set. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back after the teams have reviewed, we'll be ready with the draft for game number 2. What's up, everybody? We're back for game number 2 of the Path2Pro Combine block for today. Of course, we had our second team with Quacker, Bio, Darkwings, Good Boy, and Dum Dum taking the game number 1. It looks like sides are going to remain on the same sides for this time around. Sorry, they are swapped this time around. This is what we thought the drafts were, the teams were going to look like for our first draft. But Dr. Calculus' team moving over to the blue side. We see the bans take place. Really nice stuff, specifically out of Good Boy and Dum Dum down there in the bottom lane. These younger players continuing to impress at this Combine.
Yep, and going into game 2, bans already swapping up, and Graves some simple minion. When I see Udyr, Darius ban, I assume Quacker's on the other side, because those are definitely targeted. Syndra also being changed up, whereas it looks like Team 2 has actually opted to keep some of the meta bans that we saw in game 1 from the red side. The Aurora and Skarner still being banned, and then the Yone since the Udyr got taken by the other side.
It'll be a Jhin locked in for Levitate. It'll be a different look than the Ashe in game number 1, but again, not the performance that we have been expecting from Levitate, who, with Blue Otter actually, had such an impressive rookie split in the NACL, won that Rookie of the Year award, but just has been unable to translate that, at least in gameplay so far, to this Combine. And RMC, a big thing that we were saying is, you know, apart from the laning phase, he hasn't really been able to dish out a ton of damage in these team fights. Maybe with a little bit of extra space on this Jhin, he'll be able to navigate that a little bit easier, but it's not something that is, you know, necessarily there to pentakill if you are a Jhin. You're trying to be more of a utility figure for your squad.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's what I fear as well, Grips, that this DPM is not going to get padded by this game. You're picking the Jhin first pick. That's often more of a utility option here, where you can get countered in lane. And right away, too, you can see Team 2, they went for Sejuani, a tank right from the get-go, because that's what Jhin struggles into. Now, that's interesting to me, because I did watch Bio play Sejuani, and the last time he played it, I wasn't terribly impressed, to be honest. So he's getting another shot on this champion. His Nunu last game certainly did impress, so hopefully what I saw the last time was just sort of an off day from Bio, and maybe coming in with the Sejuani today with a team that seems to be clicking around him a lot better. This might be the pick that this might be the game, pardon me, that really makes him shine on this particular pick.
There'll be Varus alongside for Good Boy. This is definitely a pick that I've seen Good Boy play a couple of times. He's been in the tier 3 space for a couple of years, but either on and off on different teams. Actually was a part of like that Dignitas Mirage roster in 2021 with Dragoon back in the day. That was when he really was last like at the top of that tier 3 space, looking to continue to have those performances. You know, he's been playing solo queue, which is what has gotten him to be a part of this Combine. And so seeing him on this Varus, going to be pretty fun. It'll be up against the Jhin and the Leona for Zyko. As we say, Zyko loves engaged champions, so this is just another one now that we're in this Fearless form.
Yeah, and that does give you at least some kill threat into the bot side along with that Jhin. Varus, if you kind of just leave him unattended, his poke from his arrows can be a massive issue. It does look interesting to me that Dum Dum is not backing down whatsoever, despite the fact that Jhin can be quite deadly when he gets the all-in on squishy targets. They've just opted to say, okay, we are just going to smash it the first into you with another engage support. And both teams already really strong AoE team fights being set up. Everybody has AoE CC on both teams.
So it looks like the team fights are going to be good here in this one, as we finally do see the Lilia actually come out here as well for Kryra. Remember, that was something that was picked in the pro draft, but then they realized that was not actually what they wanted to select. So we'll get that one here as we head into the second phase of bans. Looks like mid lane is going to be the target as well as the top lane, so these solo lanes looking to be finalized here. It's interesting to see how like draft strategy changes between these two games in Fearless. I feel like we've seen a lot more of this like solo lane early lock-ins in recent parts of the season, but also showing now that we're in this Fearless format, maybe some different picks take priority.
And Team A really indexing very heavily into banning Quacker. That's what we saw during the competitive season for the most part in the NACL. And in game 1, it did catch me a little bit off guard that we threw hardly any bans to the top lane in the first ban phase. Now we've got 2 in the first ban phase, more in the second ban phase, with the Olaf also now being taken off the table. I almost half expect like a Renekton ban to come through at this point.
And we'll see.
Okay, they went
to be a Silas instead, so targeting the mid lane there. Darkwings did have a very good game on the Silas in yesterday's block, and is also something that he has been very comfortable on for years at this point. So we'll see who decides to blind pick. Will it be Quacker or Dark Wings taking that brunt here? A decent amount of blind picks available for Quacker. You mentioned the Renekton. That can be countered a little bit, but generally is considered a safe pick up there. We'll see who it ends up being. It will be that Croc locked in.
Yeah, hence why a little bit of surprise, when they kind of went with the Silas ban there. Again, it's something that Darkwings has been playing recently as well and has gone up in meta, so understandable they did that. But just a lot of comfort coming through from the side of the sector of Team 2 right now with all the champions they have. And now Darkwings getting counterpick will be very interesting. You talked about the fact earlier, Grapes, that Darkwings has kind of been going a little bit back to assassins, and if there's ever a place to pick the assassin, it is going to be an R5 after you've seen everything else and know that you can safely lock it in.
It's going to be Calculus locking in the Rumble. This is one of his best picks on the Ducky Getter squad. Was dishing out tons of damage. A very good team fighter on this pick. We'll say it's a lot of magic damage right now for the blue team. They're going to likely want an AD mid laner to round things out. It'll be the Tristana for Utter to finish off their composition. Hey, I mean, not the worst spot for an assassin here if you are Darkwings, playing against double marks.
Yeah, a lot of potential squishies on the side of Team 1. Lilia does get tanky later on, same with Leona, but early on, rather vulnerable. Though, if you do go with an assassin, the concern for Team B right now is that you want sort of an AP assassin, something like maybe the Silas Combine or an Akali, because you need magic damage the same way Team 1 needed the physical damage. Not an assassin whatsoever. They go for front to back, and Grapes, to me, this pick is ballsy. I like Cassiopeia into Tristana. The individual matchup is good. The skilling is good. But the lack of mobility coming through from a Varus Cassiopeia into a Rumble, things could get cooking here.
You lay that equalizer over the top. You can combine it with, the sleep coming out of the Lilia. I'm pretty sure if you time it right, that equalizer does not wake you up after it gets placed down. So you'll continue to burn and then take the bonus damage on after that. So a very solid opportunity for team fighting. Once again, it's the Wombo combo that we're looking at for Team 1. Can you land that Lilia sleep into the Rumble ultimate? Can Zyko be a big factor in that engage as well? But the front to back for Team 2 does look solid if their carries are allowed to be able to play the game without dying.
For sure, yeah. Both these teams have really strong team fighting compositions. It's really just about the nitty gritty. Both of them have a lot of AoE front-loaded damage as well, though it does feel like Team 2 a little bit more about the sustained front to back. Their up front is mostly the CC chains that are coming through rather than straight damage, compared to Team 1, who does have a lot of front-loaded damage, especially in that Rumble. So Grapes, I'm liking both these compositions. I think it's very, very fair. Both teams have kind of opted for their strength, and it's not a Cassiopeia. Okay, a little bit less excited here.
Man, we were getting so excited about all that. Okay, it's going to be the Azir. Another standard pick for Darkwings. It might have a little bit of trouble against the Tristana if, Utter is able to play it correctly, but the team fighting prowess is definitely there. A little bit more mobile as well, so maybe doesn't suffer as much from that, double immobile threat that we were referencing.
Yeah, Equalizer are going to have a hard time trying to cook both Varus and a chicken compared to Snake. I think it's a better team fight competition for Team 2, and considering what we saw in Game 1, the way Team 2 was much more willing to play a slower early game, play towards their advantages, knowing that they had scaling strengths, this drop feels kind of similar. Again, they're not necessarily playing for lane supremacy. They're playing, I think, more for like the team fights. Now, whether or not they can outlane is going to be an issue for Team 1 to deal with, because that's what we saw in Game 1, was the fact that Team 1 fell behind ever so slightly, incrementally in their lanes, but it just kept adding up across the board, and especially in the bot side, that's where things got spicy. And I look at the drops again. This time, I think all 3 lanes can have action, but when I see a Leona into a Nautilus, I do think that bot side can be particularly volatile. And if you can set a Jhin behind especially, then the Jhin often has a hard time getting back into the game. You often end up playing utility, much like Levitate had to do on Ashe in Game 1.
Yeah, I was talking about this with Shibi yesterday when we saw, I think, Scary Jerry piloting this Jhin. It feels really good once you get to that 3-item power spike and you're at the Infinity Edge plus the Rapid Fire plus the Shiv. But before that, definitely tough. You're not dealing a ton of damage, and you fall behind and allow for this Varus to start poking out your opposition. You allow for this front line of the Nautilus and the Sejuani to get really tanky. The Jhin does not feel as solid of a pick, and you're kind of becoming relegated to just throwing out the deadly flourishes, being a bit of a crowd control bot. So it'll be very important for Levitate and Zyko to get ahead. I believe in their ability to do so, once again, just because of the experience level that we have for both of them, given they both were in the NACL last year. But, we said that about last game, and Good Boy and Dum Dum were able to prove us wrong.
I think especially in the bot lane, the tier 3 prospects have actually been fantastic more than almost any other lane, right? Like this game, we're looking at the likes of Dum Dum and Good Boy, and Dum Dum especially has impressed me massively. But we look at the likes of Cryogen, for example, I think has done a fantastic job in the bot lane. Sushi, another sort of tier 3 prospect who has stepped up and done fantastically well. I do feel like the tier 3s in the bot lane are really bringing it up to the tier 2s and contesting them. And that's why when I'm looking at this, sure, Levitate and Zyko have a lot of experience between them. Yes, they've been playing at a higher level generally this year, but I am still probably going to call for an upset personally. Dum Dum especially has massively impressed me.
He's on the Nautilus this time, another champion that really can make action happen, even in the early stages of this one. Good Boy on the Varus as well will have a lot of early game potential. The laning phase will be a fun one to watch. Towards the top side of the map, though, I think we could see some more action than last game. The Cassante versus the Gnar, they're both looking to farm it out. They're not really looking for that many ganks. Renekton Rumble can get very interesting, especially when you consider that Bio is on the Sejuani. That synergizes very well with the Renekton up in the top side of the map. So I think that could actually be a little bit more of an avenue. I always try to cope as somebody who's played a lot of top lane that, top lane is going to be important this game. But, it ends up always just being bot lane that ends up getting a lot of the jungler's attention. But we'll see.
Yep, and on top of that too, I don't think there's going to be a wet noodle fight, right? It's not, there's no tank, there's no, I hesitate to call them bruisers at this point. The champions like Cassante aren't expected to be the most volatile laners. Whereas when you get a Rumble and you get a Renekton, they're on the more aggressive side of bruisers. They want to get kills. They want to get damage down. So I do expect for some kills to come through. Whether or not that plays out and cascades into the rest of the map, I don't know about the impact necessarily. But I wouldn't be surprised. And I would, in fact, actively want to see the junglers go up to there. You talk about the sort of Sejuani Renekton strength that can come through. That's massive onto something squishier like a Rumble. And for a Lilia as well, you talked about that laying down the equalizer into the sleep combo. I want to see that not just in team fights, but even in lane, it can be very effective. That sleep can often mess up critical ultimates like Dominus that keep these top lane champions alive a little bit longer in team fights.
Yeah, it's definitely an interaction. It's maybe a little bit easier to execute than something like a Nocturne Ori, or even the the Orianna combined with the Rakana the Xin Zhao that we saw in the last game, but can be just as effective here in this game. And seeing communication and how synergies can be executed between two players is something that we want to see here in this Path2Pro Combine, especially from players who have not had a ton of experience playing together before. Being able to coordinate and communicate properly is definitely something that Sido is looking at when evaluating these players. And so we might not be able to see the comms or hear the comms when you're watching with us on stream, but you can see a little bit, at least a little bit of a peek into what comms do end up looking like, how these players are actually communicating with each other in those little intricacies, like the certain synergies that we could see today.
Yeah, and on the other end of the spectrum, though, there's, of course, the individual questions. And for me, when I'm looking at individual questions, I'm looking at the mid lane specifically. Because last game we asked, can Utter bring it to Dark Wings? Right? Utter has been spectacular in the mid lane, winning a lot of the 1v1s, especially against other tier 3 mids. But Dark Wings, to me, is almost like the gold standard of mid laners right now in this Combine. He's rock solid, rarely costs his team the game, and often wins his team games in this Combine so far. And last game, we saw that Utter didn't win lane whatsoever. Actually was down CS, down pressure, wasn't able to make anything happen. This time, he goes with the Tristana. And while Darkwings did get the counter pick with the Azir, Tristana has a lot more agency in the early game, can actually make things happen, can out-trade the Azir early on. So the laning phase, the part of the game where Utter has shone most so far in the Combine, he's got the advantage. And I want to see if he can, this time with the favorable matchup, if you will, in the laning phase, whether he can have more of an impact compared to that Orianna pick.
Well, we'll see, because, wasn't the most useful, especially after it fell behind a little bit upon that early skirmish. But Tristana, something that can, do a little bit more in terms of having agency to go in and make plays on their own, as well as the ability to side lane, which is something that we did not
Yes.
see a lot of in that last game. Of course, it's not necessarily a 1-3-1 comp that the blue team has set up for themselves, but having other around side lanes, pressuring turrets, things like that could be important at least a little bit. We do have a slight delay with getting into this game, so we are going to we're going to step away, I should say, for a short break. Hopefully we'll have all those issues resolved. We'll get back into game shortly, but make sure you stay tuned here on the Blue Water Twitch channel. Thank you for waiting with us through the delay. We are finally on the Rift. There's League of Legends on our screen. It is game number 2 of the Combine here, the Path2Pro Combine, brought to you by Sido and Blue Otter. Of course, we saw the Quackers team, Team 2, on the red side, win game number 1. Different drafts, different champions, and hopefully a very competitive game because the last one wasn't necessarily that.
Yeah, last one was certainly clean, and if it's been a while, it was a long technical break while we were trying to fix things that broke. Thank you, Riot. Game 1 was a very slow, gradual snowball coming through from the side of Team 2, led, of course, by the snowball of Bio on that Nunu. So coming to this one, I'm hoping we get a bit more action and explosiveness, not just a gradual snowball. And considering both teams have opted for such strong team fighting compositions, the mid and late game should be exciting, if nothing else.
Yeah, from one snowy, icy champion to another. It's going to be the Nunu over to the Sejuani here.
True.
Another facilitating jungler, which is something that we are hoping to see more out of from Bio as he progresses throughout his young career. Remember, a lot of carry junglers in his early stages with Ducky Getters, things like the Graves, the Kindred. We saw Lilia lock in, and we're like, oh, that could be something that Bio can play as well. But instead, this time going for more of that supportive build, more supportive champion, and that is something that is always important on the trajectory of young players on, that path to pro, as this Combine is named after, making sure that you're not only able to play one style of champion, you can play a lot of different styles.
Seeing a bit of trade-in come down in the bot side. Neither pairing quite ready to hit level 2 just yet, and Zyko getting the bad brunt of that trade for now.
Yeah, and as we likely expected, it's going to be the lethality build here for Good Boy. He's gone with the Arcane Comet. Interesting to see Darkwings with the press the attack on the Azir. I feel like normally not something that we see super often. Speaking of this Varus, going to get tagged by Zyko as he hits level 2 first. Takes the tower shot, I believe, and so will actually be chunked down to about 200 HP, but does not have to burn any summoner spells, and they get the wave underneath the tower.
Yeah, rather unfortunate there for Levitate and Zyko. I like the early pressure they got. Yes, Zyko lost half his health on that first trade, but it was to facilitate the early level 2, and they got the level 2, ends up losing the trade by taking the turret shot. Zyko has to go back to base, but because of that early pressure, Levitate's still going to be able to make sure that he's getting the push. Dum Dum and Good Boy won't get their own cheater resets.
Should be alright with that wave crashed underneath the tower. Darkwings and Utter trading pretty heavily, and it's actually Utter winning out on that one nicely. So we talked about how Utter was a pretty good laner throughout the first few days of this Combine. We're seeing that again here in this Tristana versus Azir matchup. Definitely Tristana favored, at least early on.
Yeah, and a much better start for Utter as well. And I kind of see what he can do with the lead against Darkwings, because Darkwings is such a stable laner as well, that even if he does fall behind in lane, he often doesn't give up too much. The early pressure he's getting, though, will give Kryra a little bit more space to just kind of power farm and make things happen, and Bio has to be a little bit careful. Last game on the Nunu, even on the Nunu, Bio was still trying to get some early shenanigans rolling, but this time he won't have Darkwings to back him up for that.
Well, here comes that first Renekton Sejuani combination that we were talking about. It forces the flash out of Dr. Calculus and allows for Quacker to have a very nice wave setup right now in the top side. You might have been wondering, how is Quacker level 3? It's because a lot of the minions that Calculus has sent underneath have not been taken down just yet, because Quacker has set himself up very nicely with a freeze, and with Bio on the top side of the map, means the Calculus can't do much except for spot out his former teammate and say, hey, get out of here, man. I want to farm. I want some XP.
Dr. Calculus is playing fire. Keep in mind, he doesn't have the flash available.
Yeah, and Bio's going to flash right on top of him with the Arctic Assault. He already procs that Permafrost immediately, and it's going to be Quacker getting first blood over Calculus. Not much you can do with the wave in that spot. It's going to be a teleport force, and now some more trading on the bottom side of the map as Zyko and Levitate looking to take down Good Boy. The Ignite is ticking. The last proc will not take him down. He survives with, I think, 7 HP after that final tick.
Single digits, a bit of a late cleanse from Good Boy, or too early if you're considering the Ignite, but didn't quite get up the CC and took the full brunt of the Ignite. That's rough to see. Dum Dum just going to try and clear the way. Good Boy sticking around.
Yeah, you're going to... You kind of have to, or at least think about trying to stick around and pick up a little bit of this XP. Otherwise, you're losing so much. Already down 18 CS in this lane as well. They also know that Bio making his way back down to the bottom side jungle. So means that Good Boy is available to play with a little bit more safety, able to clear that wave out as both bot laners will head back to base. But it's Levitate and Zyko so far getting the early advantages in lane. They've got themselves an early plate. They have that CS lead. And remember, RMC, before we went to that break, we were talking about how this Jhin Leona lane definitely prefers getting ahead.
For sure, and I think Zyko as well would like to be ahead compared to what happened last game where they were just kind of set behind from the get-go. This will kind of affect Dum Dum as well, who we've said multiple times is really, really good from ahead. I've not seen him actually set behind too many times in the Combine so far. Granted, I haven't watched all the games played in the Combine. So I'm very curious to see what happens when Dum Dum falls behind in lane and what he's able to do. Good Boy, I'm a lot less concerned about. Good Boy we've seen play before in the past. Even if he is behind, he will still have a lot of relevance. And with the Bears as well, to a certain extent, not quite safe on his own, not against the Jhin Leona. So Dum Dum has to play defensively. You can't just abandon your AD carry in row.
Yeah, as you say, Calculus now in the top side, not really feeling too good. It's another wave will crash under his turret. Quacker is level 6 now, so he has a dominance. Bio is here as well. They're going to try to heavily punish this top laner from the Ducky Getters, but he will be able to survive at least for now. Turret aggro is taken off, and finally Bio will be able to take him down and survive. Meanwhile, we finally see the bot lane 2v2 of Team 1 capitalize on a good play. Good Boy did fall to Levitate.
Yeah, we saw the burst damage, the absolute chunk that comes out from a Jhin Leona duo. That time they had Cryra with them as well for that dive, so it makes it that easy. And the scary part is they can do that once they can do that multiple times on repeat. Good Boy as well, on his first base, picked up a tier, so he's really far behind.
Yeah, nice play by Bio to at least pick up one of those grubs. It means that you only need 2 out of those next 3 in order to guarantee yourself an even trade, and it also prevents the double grub buff from spawning for Team 1 if Cryra is able to get all 3 of those next grubs as well. So really nicely done from Bio, getting that dive, at least securing one of those buffs because he knew that Cryra had tempo after making that bot lane play.
Yeah, and great from Cryra as well to immediately kind of make a beeline to that top side. They didn't stop to do Dragon on the way. They recognized that our bot side strong, we can do Dragon later. Bio for the revisit though, Equalizer is available this time.
This is the top lane experience right now. You get ganked once and you know it's not going to end well. Calculus doing a good job at clearing out the wave. Yeah. And now Cryra has arrived to the party. So Calculus will be able to survive for now. Bio taking rather low. Quacker's going to flash underneath and try to take down Calculus. Cryra just didn't use the Lilting Lullaby. I don't know if it would have been enough. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, it's going to be Good Boy and Dum Dum picking up a kill. And Dum Dum his level 6, lands a depth charge in on to Levitate. The piercing arrow connects, and it's a double kill for the Varus.
Team 2 just popping off across the map on both sides,
Whoa!
even in the mid lane.
Oh, what a play. Ultimate's traded by Utter and Darkwings. Both flashes utilized as well as they tried to use the turret to their advantage or disadvantage. And it did not result in anybody going down. They're being flashy in the mid lane, but they're staying even. Meanwhile, the rest of the map now looking very good for Team 2.
Mid laners just wanted to get into the action. Now, Grapes, let's go back to the top side because that's the first piece of action that we really saw there, or that kicked off the whole map-wide action. And you're saying it's the quintessential top lane experience? Yes, even to the point where Dr. Calculus overstays his welcome. He's low. He needs to back out, and you could see that Cryra was not ready. We talked about communication. That, to me, signals another lack of communication. Hook lands from Dum Dum
with another nice hook. Utter very aggressively not using anything to try to escape, or maybe he just didn't have any resources. There's the Lilting Lullaby, and Darkwing just takes him, just bonks him over the head with an auto attack and makes it a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, and again, we were just talking about Dr. Calculus doing that. Utter did the exact same thing. You're low on health. There's no need to step up right there. Trust your team. Cryra can finish things off. Turret shot into Cryra's back. Gonna make that trade a little bit more favorable for Bio in the 2v1 situation. But Team 2 does not have control over this dragon.
Yeah, it's gonna be Cryra setting up around it, taking down that Scuttle Crab. As Bio's there, albeit a little bit late. Does have the Lock of the Iron Solari now. He's the first one on his team to pick up his first item. Though it is a bit more of a cheaper one. Good Boy playing aggressively, and it actually forces Cryra to escape at least for now. Levitate does not get hit by that chain of corruption as Good Boy sends it wide.
Yeah, those chains of confusion there. A little bit.
That was tough. It was tough.
Yeah, a little bit further off than I expected. Not really a threat on maybe expecting somebody to move forward. Either way, it won't be available, and that slows down the whole dragon pressure that Team 2 have on this bot side.
Nicely done by Utter right there. He's going to be able to take Darkwings down. Bio arrives just in time to make it a trade, but a nice use of the Buster Shot to prevent the dash, as well as an extra buffer with the rocket jump. Now we see Levitate on the bottom side getting targeted once again. Good boy barely unable to take him out. He flashes with the final auto and will secure his third kill of the game. After Levitate and Zyko got off to such a good start, it is now Good Boy and Dum Dum once again with the advantage. They take down Zyko as well as it'll be Kryra, making it a trade 2-for-1. But if you're Good Boy and Dum Dum, you're taking that every single day of the week.
For sure, 2-Pro and Dum Dum unfortunately picking up the second kill in that particular trade. But I want to go back to the mid lane trade from Darkwings. You could tell that he was waiting for Bio to really get in there and help out. I don't know if he miscalculated a little bit, but Utter finding the 1v1 in that situation was big for Team 1. Unfortunately, as a whole, Team 2 still just winning out more frequently. So they're getting that edge. They're up 2,500 gold in 11 minutes. That's actually fairly significant. It's giving Team 2 a lot more control over these objectives, despite the fact that Bio's not actually been able to really go for these objectives. He's been going for ganks instead.
Yeah, the ganks have been working, especially onto Dr. Calculus, who once again has to use his flash. Not a lot of damage on the Rumble right now, who started with the skill caps to keep himself safe, as now the blue team looking to maybe contest around these grubs. Remember, they got 2 out of the 3 as Bio was able to smite one away. He does the same on that first grub, and will try to at least make this an even trade. Bruno dashes in, does not actually find anybody with a dredge line, and will go down as it will be Kryra picking up that first kill. But now Quacker on the teleport is able to pick up 2 kills as both the bottom laners will drop, as it will be the red team securing the team fight win and getting the advantage in the grub department.
And this is something we've seen from Dum Dum repeatedly throughout this Combine. The initial engage looks questionable at best, but the whole point of the engage isn't necessarily just to find that one target out of position and kill somebody early. It's actually to bring the other team to the table for a fight where you know you're stronger, where Quacker just had more impact. And unfortunately, Dr. Calculus was not in a position to ideally follow up. The equalizer didn't come across whatsoever, and Team 2, they continue to snowball. They get 4 Void Grubs. They are going to get the Void Links from what originally was a tough topside position.
Zyko now. Hex flashing onto Good Boy, hits level 6 off of the minion, and will be able to take Good Boy down as Utter will secure the kill. Wilting Lullaby not used just yet as Dum Dum is taken low, but will be left, at least for now, to run away with his life.
Still a good trade, being able to keep Good Boy down. Dum Dum looking for aggression.
God,
Utter jumping in!
Crazy right now. Okay, making it a 1-for-1 trade. The gold goes to the support, so I guess it's worth it. But pushing the limits here on this Tristana. Right now, Zyko pushing the limits on this champion in the Leona as Quacker is in some trouble. Underneath the turret he goes. Now Quacker can flash in. Now unstoppable on the Croc. And looking to take down Levitate as well. His former teammate on Blue Otter will be safe as the Swirl Seed will come out to peel.
Dr. Calculus, though, against his former teammate Bio, interrupting the base with a smite.
Oh man, the action just not stopping here. These guys went through that remake and were like, we just need to get fighting right now immediately. Bio with the ultimate lands 2 stacks of the Permafrost and gets the solo kill onto Dr. Calculus, who's now 0-4.
When's the last time we saw like a Sejuani jungle just flat out solo kill a top laner like that? And I love that their former teammates
first stage, the might have was thrown out in succession right there, as it will be Zyko not finding any more than just a little bit of poke onto Good Boy, trying to force out the red team from the enemy jungle. But it is right now team number 2 with a 3,000 gold lead. Fight continuing here. The Deadly Flourish connects onto Dum Dum. Solar Flare will not land, but the rocket jump will allow for Utter to secure that kill. Call comes out, gonna chunk Good Boy down to half HP. What a wild game we've got here in game 2, RMC.
Yeah, and I love that some of these players, specifically players like Utter and Dum Dum, are so willing to get in there and trade. Utter on this Tristana, this is what I expected of him from what I had seen in the Combine thus far. This relentless aggression, the willingness to trade, saying that, okay, support, you know, for my death ends up actually being kind of favorable for me because I'm okay to give that kill over. The math favors me. And now with the aggression in the mid lane, it's kind of bouncing back because they went for that Herald. Utter?
You guys are playing very aggressively right now. The piercing arrow.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, enough. as he barely is going to survive from that Azir damage as well. Who's doing, Darkwing's going Shadow Flame first item. We thought, maybe that extra damage on the crit could have been enough, but it was not.
Off the top of my head, I'm going to say it was worth the Shadow Flame. Leandries, if you had gone for that, wouldn't have killed instead because you don't get that extra crit that Darkwing gets on that auto. But still incredibly close, and that's why we're talking about Utter, right? This guy is playing really, really close to that line and able to kind of make it work. Didn't go down in that particular trait. Now, the Herald trait, though, did end up hurting Team 1 a little bit because, yes, you get Herald to take a turret, but Team 2 just straight up took your mid-outer turret of all turrets, which is opening up the map so much more for them. That makes this Dragon more interesting as well because Team 2 has an easier time accessing it, but they were actually slow to it and don't have any vision, so they've got to walk in dark even though the minions do favor them.
We'll see if they want to fight this one. It is the first Dragon of the game. Neither team has claimed it just yet. It will be secured by Utter as he rocket jumps away to safety. Once again, just without any vision, Team 2 was unable to get into an advantageous position to fight, but it is only the first Dragon, so they're not going to be too.
That's mind-boggling. I didn't even notice till you mentioned that, Grapes. We're 16 minutes in for first Dragon.
People don't like taking Dragons these days. It's like, grubs are just more of a factor. Even the first Rift Herald was taken for the Dragon there, as Zyko did have to flash away from the permafrost of Bio, who is still looking to go aggressive here, as it will land a Solar Flare onto 2. Kryra still looking for the damage, but a nice Glacial Prison combined with the arrow from Good Boy will secure the first kill, but it's matched nicely by the burn of Kryra to take down his opposing jungler. Look at Utter on the back line in a 1v3, trying to take down Dum Dum. Will be able to do so, but will not be able to rocket jump away in time. With Quacker arriving off the teleport, it is now a 3v2. They're still looking to be a little bit aggressive here, as Levitate has a lot of health and does have his flash. There's a low health bars on everybody on the red squad. They're looking still for the kills. Quacker jumps forward, not going to be able to find the final blow. The Deadly Flourish goes wide, and the equalizer over the top. Team 1 coming right back into this game as Kryra will look to hunt Darkwings down.
Kryra's just breaking ankles right now, dodging left and right, running everybody down. Most miles run, at least in that particular fight, and just with that, Grapes, Team 1 actually caught up with Team 2. Team 2 was starting to pull away. The snowball was growing once again, but Team 1 stopped it right in its tracks, and you love to see it. Kryra, this jungler as well, this tier 3 jungler who's kind of been popping up, really making a bit of a splash in this Combine, shows why he's been one of the best performing junglers so far.
5, 0, and 7 on this Lilia pick right now. 10 stacks on the Dark Seal. Just finished the Riftmaker. Going to be going for what looks like a Rylai's for next item. Continuing to get stronger and stronger here. Continues to push his advantage in over Bio. As Kryra didn't have the best game in game number 1. Bio did have, a very solid performance on the Nunu there, but this jungler has been a very exciting player to watch over the last couple of years, whether it was on Gentle Hearts last season in 2023, and then this year on a bunch of different teams finalizing with CCG. This guy is going to be somebody that is going to be a fun person to watch in the NACL for years.
Yeah, and in that specific play on the bot side, it is worth noting as well as Kryra did play, Team 2 took a lot of risks playing behind that turret. Darkwing's now getting caught up mid.
Zyko right here. They find Darkwings and just will burst him down 100 to 0. Kryra takes the Rift Herald and will drive it right into this tier 1 turret and match that in terms of towers taken. Now there is no tier 1 in mid lane for either squad, as it might be Team 1 looking for a little bit more. Otter might have caught out Good Boy, as the blast cone over will allow for Kryra to land that swirl seed as well. He flashes over the wall and will be able to survive.
Yeah, really good control ward there to spot out the rotation of Good Boy coming in, and you can see Good Boy, as soon as he realized that was there, rotated out right away, and Zyko, Levitate, and Utter, this burst damage trio is being an absolute menace while Kryra is zoning out too.
Plans to sleep only on to Dum Dum right now, but that's all the kills that they need. As Utter picks it up, allows him to get a reset curtain call, will be opened up. Not going to find a kill, but will chunk people down pretty low. Meanwhile, on the other side of the fight, Darkwings has come in with the Emperor's Divide. Quacker flashing in. It will be able to take down 2, but Utter is still alive. Kryra is still alive. And look at these health bars. They are so low, and Kryra will take over the team fight. He's 8-0-9, and it's an ace for Team 1.
Darkwings was betrayed by his Sand Soldiers. One of them despawned right before he killed Utter, so he couldn't get the last auto he needed to finish off the Tristana. And Kryra throughout this fight, look at how healthy he is. 8-0-9. He started it by zoning 1v2, pardon me, off the side, off the screen as well. Dr. Calculus finished off Good Boy in the side lane. Team 1 as a whole is really starting to come together. All the carries in all the multiple lanes are winning out against, I don't want to call them the counterparts, but they're winning their assigned lane matchups.
And they're doing so very, very nicely right now. Even Utter, who had a very aggressive fight. You can see in these team fights just how aggressive he is, how willing, as we mentioned, to play on those limits. 8-4 and 4, has the Infinity Edge picked up, does 2 completed items on the Triss. He'll be able to one-shot any of these primary carries if he can jump on top of Good Boy or Dark.
Yeah, and for Team 2 right now, part of their problem is also that they are not pulling the trigger on a lot of these plays, right? We're seeing Zyko get right in there with Levitate. We're seeing Utter just be willing to jump in with zero hesitation at all. Whereas Team 2, DumDum has been quiet since laning. Since he kind of fell behind, he's not been able to find the engages. Bio, unfortunately, isn't there at some of these fights to kick things off either. Picks are happening to Team 2 first, and so they're not able to set up. I think Team 2 needs to kind of slow down a little bit, get back to what was working for them in that early game rotation.
Ahead, at least for a little bit in this game, right? I mean, they was 3K at about the 10-minute mark or so, with Quacker really in a good position, Good Boy and DumDum really coming back after they had a bit of a rough laning phase to start off. But Zyko, I think, has found himself some really nice engages in this game, making full use of the Leona champion, including that full health bar, as he has died a couple of times. But that's worth it when you're winning team fights.
Yeah, and we talked about earlier in draft grapes the fact that for a Jhin, that 3-item spike is going to feel really, really nice when you get there. Well, when you're ahead as well, it's going to feel really nice because they're not that tanky. Because Zyko has been able to find the squishier members like Good Boy, like Darkwings, and to a lesser degree, DumDum right now, who doesn't have all those tank items, they're able to burst them down right away. This Jhin has found so much utility.
Yeah, speaking of utility, he opens it up to start the engage with the curtain call. Find the immediate target onto Good Boy. The blockage shield will not be enough, as it'll be Kryra going legendary in this game. But Quacker on the back line, looking to take down Levitate, has Hysterics pop, not going to be enough. It's a double kill in for the Jhin, and Utter going to clean house as well. It is a 5-for-0 ace, as Team 1 will head to the Baron.
A cleaner ace you could not ask for from this team of Team 1. They get the carries down, they focus appropriately, and unfortunately DumDum tried to finish off Kryra, who was living on a hope and a prayer. Wasn't able to outdamage the healing that Lilia brought to the table, and with this advantage they have, if they get Baron, or when they finish getting the Baron grapes, Utter is going to be unleashed to split push on this Tristana. Kryra is going to be an absolute menace, and the turrets are going to fall so incredibly quickly. The pick potential from range with the Swirl Seed, with the potential Solar Flare, with that curtain call we saw Levitate open up that fight with, those are all great siege tools that Team 2 don't have good answers to.
Yeah, what a performance from this mid jungle of Team 1. You have Utter, who has made it into the top 16 of qualifiers a couple of times, but has not really had its full chance on a top tier organization just yet. And Kryra really finally getting that full chance with CCG as a sub, then comes in to finish off the regular season and the promotion tournament with them. He's looked very, very good throughout this combine. He's 9-0-10 in this game right now, finishing off another item. It looks like it might be a Cosmic Drive to round out his 4th item here, as the rest of his team finishing up this siege. He might not get to that item spike for it right now, RMC, because Team 1's looking to end the game.
Yeah, and with the push that they have, they are going to be very, very strong on this. The Baron buff is only 1 minute in as well, so they've got plenty of time for this. Team 2, on the other hand, they haven't quite given up just yet. Darkwings on the split push has the TP available to rejoin his team.
So that's an interesting thing to take note of. It's already the tier 2 tower going down on the top side, but all 5 of Team 1 are here sieging on the bot lane inhibitor turret. The mid lane wave soon to follow. Right now, the root will connect onto Bio. He has to dash away. Almost ends up going down. And it will be the explosive shot from Utter, taking down the jungler and forcing Darkwings to come back to base.
Yeah, Chains of Corruption was thrown in that madness as well. Again, not quite finding anybody. Good Boy not able to land his Varus ultimate to any effect for most of this game so far. It's a 5v4. Darkwings tagged by the slow.
Oh, the Solar Flare doesn't connect, but it buys enough slows for the Deadly Flourish too. Darkwings using that Seeker's Arm Guard to try to escape. Sleep lands on top of him, but it's not going to be enough. Calculus picks up the kill. The deadly flourish lands on the good boy, but he does not get rooted up. The bot lane inhibitor falls. You see Utter going back to base. He wants to teleport back in under the wave and end the game right here and right now. It is a 2v5. Here's Kryra just wreaking havoc over the opposition, landing tons of damage. All of the spells on the good boy. Has the Conqueror proc, gets stunned up, but will not die. Here comes the backup. Calculus here to burn everybody down, and it'll be a 1-1 tie here in the first 2 games of this Combine. Team 1 answer right back and take this one in 25 minutes.
Well, Grapes, if we call game 1 a bit of a snowball, this game 2 was an avalanche coming through from Team 1. And I love how they push the advantages so incredibly quickly. The experience really shown, I think, coming through from Kryra and Zyko in terms of knowing how to look for those engages, and especially the synergy between Zyko and Levitate. These guys didn't play on the same team, but they were on the same wavelength. Anytime picks came through, it felt like it was coming from that bot side. And Team 2, they just got caught flat-footed in the mid game. They had a really solid early game. They came out with a lead, but when things started to go south for them, they never quite recovered their footing.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed very close, and if anything, Team 2 was at another advantage. I really liked what I saw from Bio on the Sejuani early, trying to snowball Quacker up there in the top side. You know, that's a synergy that you are supposed to be able to use, the permafrost with the melee attacks of Renekton, and it did set Calculus very far behind. Problem is, did not set anybody else far behind because so busy focusing up top, as Utter and Kryra had terrific games here in this one.
Yeah, and if you look at the damage, it reflects that, right? Kryra out-damaged the entirety of Team 2 as well, falling only behind Utter, who was just playing like a madman, a man possessed in the mid lane, opting for some trades that got us but a little bit by surprise because we weren't expecting that level of aggression. And I think it was very telling that for Team 2, the highest damage ended up coming from Good Boy at only 18,000 damage, which was slightly higher than Levitate, yes, and Dr. Calculus, but being that close is not ideal when you're the highest damage on your team and you're comparing to like 3rd, 4th highest damage on the opposing side. I will say as well, as much as I appreciate what Bio did in the early game, Gangsta topside were great. He had the early game plan down. The mid game from Dum Dum and Bio was not very much there. Neither of them were finding the engages they needed to find. And when you're falling behind like that, when you've got 2 team fight compositions, you need to start bouncing back early. The bigger the gold gap gets, the worse it is for your team, because both your teams want to do the exact same thing. If you're too far behind, even if you find a catch, the other team, which is just going to treat it as an engage, right? You going in is just them actually finding the fight that they were looking for. So I would like to see Dum Dum and Bio kind of spring back a little bit quicker. Thankfully, we have one more game in this block of 3. So my wish could yet come through from Bio and Dum Dum.
Yeah, and wins don't mean everything in this Combine, but
True.
They're both tied at 1-1. We got one game to play. I'm sure there's a little bit of extra juice to come forward here. Reminder, it is a true fearless draft, so we're going to see some more champions taken off the board, but should be still exciting. We're going to take a short break as these teams VOD review, break down that game, and we'll be back for the draft of Game 3. Welcome back, everybody. The final game of the day here at the Path2Pro Combine. We got both of our teams, 1-1, headed to our third game. An interesting roster note just to take into account before we head into game. Good Boy unfortunately had an obligation to get to, so he will be unable to play for this final game. Instead, his spot will be filled by Sushi, another player from the qualifiers this year that we were really excited to come see in this Combine. Has had some pretty impressive performances at RMC, and I am excited to see him with Dum Dum, who also has had a pretty fun start to this day.
Yeah, and Grapes, you're telling me, because you've seen way more Sushi than I have in Tier 3, that his laning in the NACL qualifiers was decent, but where he really shone was the team fights. Whereas here in the Combine, from what I've seen of Sushi so far, I've actually been really impressed with his laning. So that, with Dum Dum and sort of the different perspectives we have on him, makes me excited to see what he's going to be able to bring to the table. Whether we see that lane dominant Sushi, and maybe we get to see both sides lane dominant and team fight dominant Sushi.
Well, yeah, we'll see if the laning phase will work with Dum Dum like it did with Cryogen yesterday. I think both of them encapsulate very similar playstyles, aggressive early on in the game, and able to snowball advantages very, very well. That is what we saw with Sushi and Cryo in our last game, our last block yesterday. But it looks like things might be a little bit more passive this time around. It looks like we see a Ziggs locked in first. Could be flexible, but I'd imagine that goes towards Sushi down bot.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Ziggs not a laning champion to excite me. It feels more like that scaling pick to come through. And we do know that Sushi is more than willing to play some pocket mages, things like the Ziggs, like the Brand even in the bot lane. But this pick does excite me, Grapes. The Kaisa for Levitate especially. He was nuts on this champion in the NACL. And on top of that too, it feels like Levitate was kind of put on a little bit more utility duty today on the Ashe, on the Jhin, and now that both of those are off the table, I'm so glad he gets an aggressive pick. Is that locked?
I think it's locked.
Let's go, Psycho Pike!
It's going to be a Pike for Zyko, another aggressive champion. Engage, I guess, but you play a little bit more of that assassin style as well. And that's going to be a fun one here. Kaisa Pike, a lot of aggression, a lot of dive here for this bot lane for Team 1.
Now, Grips, I know you said that the Ziggs could be flexing to mid lane. If I were team I would want in the mid lane. I'm like, hey, Darkwings, you can play this, buddy, right? Thanks. Because it is going to be really, really rough. And I'm not sure what support you can go with to try and nullify this. We are... Okay, going with a Blitzcrank is not nullifying this lane. You're kind of playing really aggressively as well. I don't know if I like the 2v2 of the Ziggs Blitz into Kaisa Pike. I can see it working later, out of lane, but in lane is kind of scary.
Now I want to see Sushi like lock in a Samira or something and just like go band for band, go super aggressive everywhere, like just make that 2v2, coin flip it, something like that. Probably not gonna happen. We're probably just gonna see the Ziggs and the Blitzcrank, which, as you say, has both are effective in their own rights. Once we get later on, the laning synergy compared to the Kaisa Pike, I'm a little bit curious about and wondering if that's gonna actually be the best here for them. Utter is going to lock in the Silas, and we head to our second phase ban.
Yeah, and Ujir being locked in for the side of Bio as well. Well, actually, let's not call it jungle, because it's probably Quacker's Ujir. Quacker being the one who plays a bit more, so assuming that's the case, we're still looking for junglers for both these teams and a solo laner mid for the side of Darkwings and top for the side of Dr. Calculus.
Yeah, could flex around a little bit. I feel like Bio has it in his bag pocket if he wants to, but again, the flexibility is helpful. You have even the Ziggs who can flex mid to bot lane. That's another thing that is valuable here. These players learning how to draft a little bit. They have some coaches who have been very experienced in their own rights for them to help out in this combine. So we'll see where these picks end up going, but right now it looks like Quacker is targeting Calculus's champ pool a little bit, going to be taking away that Aatrox, and we'll see if they continue to target the mid lane here for Team 1.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering if that Silas even could be flexed up to Dr. Calculus. I know he has played it in the past. Not recently, though. I'm trying to think if I've seen it recently, but yeah, a lot of potential flexes to come through for now. Well, it is confirmed Syndra taken away, Lucian taken away as well, and it does feel like that might be a Lucian perhaps they're expecting to see into the bot side. They want to make sure that there isn't something that can try and match that Kaisa Pike, kind of going toe-to-toe. If you're talking about lane dominant picks, you can still go with things like Callista, who hasn't been picked, is still available. Draven probably not as good an option because of the way Pike can lay down some CC and mess him up.
A nice little respect band there for Kryra Zach. Would be a lot of crowd control for him to build off of there with the Sylas and the Pyke, so not surprised to see that one taken off of the board. As we head into our second pick phase, reminder that Team 1 is looking for a top laner and a jungler. Team 2, unsure just yet, but most likely a mid and a jungle as well. Unless we see
It
something
is
a little
Dr.
bit
Calculus
wonky.
Sylas stomp.
Okay, interesting. So what can you tell me about this? Is this a good blind pick? I don't know. Maybe a Sylas jungle. What do you think?
I don't think it's a blind pick. I think they're assuming it's Quacker's Udyr, and that's why they're picking the Sylas, and they can kind of steal away the Udyr ultimate and kind of try and match that push. Sylas also can match sustain against Udyr once he gets a couple of items down, will outscale. So the idea is that you can survive the early game, you can do well later as well. Taking away Blitzcrank ultimate and Ziggs ultimate, a lot of good ultimates you can take away as well. Bio though, going back to tried and true. It is going to be the Graves coming through, and with the lane setup, it's not terrible right now. We've seen this before. Bio can definitely get rolling on this. The big question whenever I see his Graves is, can the team connect with this Graves and make it relevant in the mid and late?
I'm interested to see what Darkwings will pick to match alongside it. When Bio was on the Ducky Getters, that Graves was paired alongside things like the Galio, even more supportive picks like Karma, played by people like Hiccup. They would do these weird lane swap situations as well. It's going to be a Sivir that's going to flex the Ziggs into the mid lane. So as you suggested, RMC, they don't like the idea of having that Ziggs against the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, I'm liking this a lot more. With the spell shield, you can negate a lot of the initial pull that makes Pyke so deadly. If you time it right, you can also block the ultimate sometimes. So I definitely like the Sivir pickup. And it does come down, I think, a bit more to Kai'Sa and Levitate to be able to get that pressure down if they want to be able to win that. I was wondering, Grapes, if we'd see a tank come through for Team 1, because I do feel like they needed some sort of front line. They went the opposite way. Lamb's Respite coming through for Kryra, and Lamb's Respite is such a conditional ultimate. Yes, it can take the place of a tank, right? You make everybody a tank if nobody can die. But at the same time, you've got to get in position to get it right. And so many times we've seen Kindreds get burst down before they even get the opportunity to use that ultimate. And with the CC, with a Blitzcrank, with an Udyr, I can potentially see a world in which Kryra just gets hooked, gets taken out before he can even press R.
It's an exciting pickup here for Kryra on the Kindred. It's a carry jungler, something that we haven't seen him play too much of, especially on CCG. We're thinking of things like the Zac and the Vi, but coming up, very familiar with these champions, with playing hard carry junglers, and it's game number 3, so you know that they're going to have a little bit more fun with it, play a little bit more high damage. It's the last game of the Combine for today.
Yeah, and Kryra as well, again, as you mentioned on CCG, he was known more for utility tank style things for the team. And this is what I really appreciate about Kryra, is how flexible he is in his role. Because before he went to the CCG, he used to play things like aggressive carry junglers, like Graves, like Kindred as well. He's not that far off in terms of champion pool from what Bio is, or what Bio is currently playing as well. So I really like the fact that we're seeing sort of the head-to-head carries in the jungle. Bot lane, we're seeing the head-to-head in terms of hooks. Top side as well, the Sylas and Udyr is going to be an interesting one to me, because I do feel like Udyr wins out early, but you've got to absolutely stomp that lane, and we saw how that worked out yesterday, though this time it is Quacker on the lane dominant pick versus Dr. Calculus on the lane dominant pick yesterday on the Garen into Gwen style matchup, which I suspect is what this one's going to turn out to be. And the mid lane is the only one where I think we're seeing a very big difference in how they want to play. Ahri versus Ziggs. Ziggs more of an artillery safe lane holding pick, whereas Ahri much more aggressive in playmaking.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to what this top lane matchup is going to look like. Sylas against Udyr. I can't say that this is a matchup that I've seen too often here. No. You mentioned how stealing away that ultimate could be helpful, but Udyr's ult is one of those ults that isn't necessarily like a game-changing ability. Sure, it gives you like the wave clear and things like that, but it's on a 4-second cooldown. Like you can cast it all the time.
Yeah, that's true and fair enough. And I'm not terribly experienced in this matchup either. I'm just trying to think on how it might work. I've seen it before, but in low elo, which is not applicable at this level. So because of that, I'm not 100% sure how this is going to go necessarily. But like I said, the skilling of Sylas is undeniable, right? And that's why I'm thinking that Udyr kind of has to stomp out early, or else Sylas will just be able to match. Now, Grapes, I think we just got an update on how this draft is going to go.
It's a little different than what we thought. It's going to be a little bit different than our expectations, but it's going to be Sivir mid lane for Darkwing. Sushi going to be piloting the Ziggs down in the bottom lane, so a little bit of the hesitation that we had in terms of worrying about the Ziggs vulnerability. That's still going to be there. But Sivir in the mid lane can match Ari in terms of wave clear with that boomerang blade a little bit. Of course, Ziggs can wave clear pretty well as well, but I'm curious to see how this works. I feel like we see a decent amount of mid lane AD champions, but not really a Sivir ever.
Yeah, I am curious but uninterested in how this mid Sivir is going to. It doesn't sound exciting or interesting to me. Sivir not a champion who you think of in terms of early game prowess, who can kind of match in lane, like you called. You can just wave clear very, very well. I'm actually not sure if mid would run something like a static shift to try and match wave clear and then shield just to deny what Ari wants to do, or whether we'd see lethality Sivir to wave clear but still have some sort of threat into the mid lane to be able to trade. Either way, it doesn't sound super exciting to me. And as you mentioned, Grapes, the concern for the Ziggs on the bot side, that remains. You can wave clear for days, but if a hook lands, it's going to be kind of rough. I'm not fancying their 2v2 odds as the game kind of goes on into the Kai'Sa as well. And the dive threat from this Kai'Sa Pike is just so extreme. It's going to be really tough for Dum Dum to be able to roam out with this Blitzcrank too. If you leave the Ziggs alone post 6, yeah, you get a dead Euro.
To what this competition is going to look like. A lot of unorthodox picks, a lot of not meta stuff, even if it's champions that, you know, normally play in those positions, like a Graves jungle or Blitzcrank support. All pretty interesting for team number 2, as, you know, they're in the true Fearless format, so it results in you having to whip out some things that you might not have traditionally played. But, you know, they were able to win that first game. They fell short in the second game. Let's see what they have here in game number 3. Will the experience of Team 1, you know, pay off a little bit here? Or, you know, will Team 2 with their young bot lane, this time Sushi instead of Good Boy, will they be able to come out on top? Obviously, once again, win's not necessarily the priority here, but you know, seeing what we're looking for is, you know, solid gameplay and proactive thinking, I think, from these players. Are they having good ideas to how to play the game, even if the execution isn't necessarily there?
For sure, and they've certainly got some ideas. Whether good or not will be decided by how they kind of execute. And that's been kind of sort of this block as well, right? The drops have been solid from both of these teams, and it has really come down more to in-game execution and what they've kind of opted to do, how clean Game 1 was for the side of Team 2, and how, you know, in Game 2, Team 1 were able to bounce back, correctly identifying the pick potential they had and really maximizing that from their bot lane, and now coming into Game 3 as well. With the champions we're seeing, I'm kind of eyeing the junglers and the supports a little bit. The fact that I think Cryer and Bio were both instrumental in their team's wins in Game 1 and Game 2 in terms of speeding up the game, leveraging their strengths. And because of the hook champions, of course, that's why my eyes are drawn to Zyko and Dum Dum, both of whom have also shown a great willingness, even a joy in finding all sorts of picks and engages. I think back to Game 2, the way Zyko was finding not just solar flares, but even just with the Zenith blade on that Leona was absolutely massive. And if you can do that with the Leona, the hooks of anything should be easier.
Yeah, there's a reason why this guy was voted the best support in the NACL last split with Dragonsteel. Very, very good player. Both, you know, in terms of his communication, also just like a great guy to be around, and then of course his ability on these engage supports. You know, we saw the Rakan, we saw the Leona. Even in that Rakan game where they ended up dropping pretty quickly, I still like the looks that we saw from Zyko in that game. Pyke, a little bit more of an unorthodox champion. I don't know when the last time we saw Zyko whip this one out was, but still should be a pretty fun time. Always exciting when we see these flashy champions come at each other.
For sure, I don't know why in the back of my head I keep thinking of Maryville as a team that plays Pyke. And
Shady played a lot of Pyke. I don't know.
Shady, okay.
Zyko,
yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure if it's
Zyko
Zyko or Shady was the one who did
let's
it. But
look it up. Let's do some research here as we're onto the rift for game number 3.
You know what, Grapes? They don't want to give us time to research. They spawned on the rift just as we wanted to go and check that out. And right from the get-go too, we might see some action as there's a 5-man coming through from Team 1 on the top side.
5-man here, yeah. Okay, real quick. Zyko's one game, Proving Grounds Start Qualifier 2022 Spring number 2 on, I think it was Maryville B team at that point against no team. Did lose the game.
Is that his only Pyke?
That's his only Pyke, according to Leaguepedia. So could have had other, you know, Pyke games in CLOL or things like that are not necessarily tracked in here. But in terms of NACL or NACL qualifiers, that's what we're looking at.
Okay, we'll see if he can prove it this game.
Need
They
the hook
did
right here.
successfully
Might it.
sneak in topside.
I think, okay, it looks like they retreated here. Bio and Quacker hovering around the top side of the map, and actually right on
There we go,
cue.
hook.
There goes Zyko. 1 for 1 on the hook so far as Utter picks up first blood.
You know what? That's 100% in 2024 in terms of hooks from Zyko Spike. Excellent. And to get the first blood onto Udder as well. Another player who we know if you give him some early leads, he can definitely make magic happen up against a Sivir who's just looking to nullify lane. If Udder gets to the point where he can start threatening turret dives, that's going to be huge for him.
Yeah, so you know, already getting that kill in this mid lane matchup as well against Darkwings, who is getting the early push on the Sivir. You know, Darkwings has cooked a little bit over these last couple of days. He whipped out the Anivia yesterday, and now it's the Sivir mid today. The Anivia did not look super good. It did not end up very well for him. I think it was a lot of the blame could also go onto his team, who fell behind before Anivia could scale it all. We'll see if that happens here with the Sivir. Looks like it's a press the attack build. You remember when lethality Sivir was like a thing as well? That's not going to probably be the case today, as Zyko lands another hook and chunks Sushi down to 300 HP.
Yeah, and that's why you're kind of seeing Blitzcrank as an answer to a lot of other hook champions. When you throw out the hook, he can just kind of hook you into him and then kind of protect the other target from that or trade positions. And normally that's fine, but you're kind of seeing the downside of pairing it specifically with the Ziggs right now, which is that even if you land the hook, even if you get the knockup to follow, Ziggs isn't really quite able to match early on. Later on, sure, he's going to have a lot of burst damage. He does scale very, very well with AP, but the laning phase is the big threat from Blitzcrank initially, and then beyond that, yeah, hooks are always going to be a threat, but it does feel like you've muted the Blitzcrank hooks, the Blitzcrank pick, pardon me, somewhat.
And right now, it's resulting in levitating Zyko. Maybe, you know, something we expected. Having a pretty big CS lead over Sushi and Dum Dum as they push that wave underneath the enemy turret. Kryra clearing top to bot, so he will be around to make sure that no dive ends up happening, but of course none will because Bio is farming his top side. Looks like they're going to trade those Scuttle Crabs rather nicely, as with Levitate getting the opportunity to back, Zyko gets a roam timer and is looking mid.
Yeah, and there was good comms coming through from Team T. Darkwings was notified the moment it happened. He actually backed off right from the get-go.
Great shield. Did that even hit?
Good question. I mean, the shield looked like it took a long time to dissipate there.
Yeah, it either like was a visual bug or Zyko's missed the hook. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, well played from Darkwings to make sure that the gank wasn't going to result in anything whatsoever. And keep in mind, with the Sivir, Darkwings is not necessarily picking this to win the lane in terms of trading. He's picking to just nullify and scale. Sivir's scaling is going to be absolutely monstrous. And even with the Lamb's Respite, they will still somewhat struggle to deal with it later on.
Yeah, so right now, the mid laners are trading aggressively. Utter and Darkwings both trying to, you know, posture aggressively to get that wave in the right spot. As right now, we see the top laners duking out a little bit. Kryra is going to spot out Quacker, and it's going to be maybe a 2v2. As Team 1, they think that they can go for an aggressive play, but they don't know that this Graves is here, at least just yet. They want to get this wave under the tower, and it looks like Kryra's going to help them do.
Yeah, and Bio actually showed a little bit early, so Kryra spotted them out. They were aware it's a 2v2. The goal, though, was not necessarily to kill Quacker. It's to try and get a better lane state for Calculus to get this wave.
Well, maybe they will kill Quacker, though. Pretty low on mana. Dr. Calculus eats a turret shot.
Oh, no.
Bio. It's going to be marksman on marksman. Quacker has the HP advantage for now. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, we have a kill, but let's take a look at top. Dr. Calculus, he flashes away. And it looks like Kryra will be okay as well. Looking for a little bit more damage onto Bio. Trying to hide behind the minions to prevent that shotgun from landing any damage onto him. And Kryra is kiting this beautifully. Still looking for a little bit more. Still looking for some more juice. Calculus cancels his back. Still looking. Quacker runs out of mana. And the E from Kryra will finish him off. One more Dance of Arrows could be enough. But this is going to be the smoke screen. That will allow it to be a trade. Unable to find that auto attack onto Bio will make it a 2-for-1.
But it's still a double for Kryra, and Bio and Quacker, they were playing with fire. They were trying to just delay backs into the mid lane. Darkwings, perfect shield.
Yeah, uses the spell shield
dodges the
for
charm.
the E early. Dodges the charm as well. Darkwings playing this one beautifully. Not even having to proc the ultimate for that extra move speed, but chunking Utter down pretty low. Seems like it's going to be another instance of the red team trying to clear the wave, unless they go for the kill. Nice hook from Zyko, the Bone Skewer, finding Darkwings without a spell shield.
Udder has shown that he has absolutely no hesitation. If there is a thought of an angle, he will make it happen. One thing that we didn't catch though, Grapes, was that a kill did go down on the bot side. Sushi got a kill onto Zyko. They won that 2v2. I don't know how it happened, but now Sushi is up top with that early lost chapter as well, with a ton of mana.
Oh, hook lands onto Udder. He might be in trouble. Flashes away. No damage from Bio to finish the job. So instead, it'll be Udder picking up the kill. Bone Skewer landing onto Bio. Not going to be enough underneath the tier 1 as Dark Wings comes back to base. Udder still has not based and is now sitting at a comfortable 3-0 scoreline, and it might be more as Zyko makes another play down there towards the mid lane. But it's just going to be Dark Wings once again escaping under his tower, getting that wave crashed and allowing everybody to take a reset.
Dark Wings just got back down to half health. Udder now with 3 kills under his belt will finally get his base off the second base of the game for him to boot. And don't forget, Udder did get first blood as well on that pick onto Bio in the enemy jungle. So a lot of gold currently sat on this Ahri, who can now roam, try and help out the side lanes a little bit more. Bio, though, taking good use of the pressure they got, the reset they got onto Udder, to go for an uncontested Void Grubs. I expect to see Cryer answer the draft.
So like that trade will be in play. Look at Udder's build right now compared to everybody else. The Lost Chapter, and of course that blasting one. It works his way towards that item. As right now it's Team 1 with a 1,000 gold lead or so. Are also in the lead in terms of CS in all 3 of their lanes. Not necessarily mid is even, but they have the kills to match it up.
Yeah, and the gold advantage I suspect largely coming from those kills that Team 1 has managed to accrue. 5-2 now. We talked about the fact that Udder has that priority in that mid lane, looking to roam around already in the enemy jungle. Kryra kind of baiting a little bit, has the Lamb's Respite as well, so any sort of pick has to keep that in count.
Now the ward will spot out Udder, but instead they're going to go straight onto the bottom lane. Blast the satchel charge, make sure that Sushi does not get hit by the stun, and instead it's Udder getting shut down by Dark Wings as the Sivir will finally get on the board here. They're still looking for a hook, does not find the Bone Skewer onto anybody. Kryra still maneuvering around the bottom side.
Really good target selection from Team 2. They recognize that, hey, Kryra has Lamb's Respite, just don't go for Kryra. And because Kryra kind of got scared away, Udder got left up a creek with no paddle, holding the baby right there, and there was just no backup for this Ahri. This 3-kill Ahri kind of getting shut down, and because of that, Dark Wings is just going to get free push. And we talked about the Sivir being able to wave clear very effective defensively. Offensively, it means that anytime you die, you're going to lose a wave.
Oh, wow. That Calculus dashing away again as there's more dueling up in the top side. Quacker's pretty tanky. Also has an Oblivion Orb, which makes sure that that W from Calculus actually doesn't do enough healing. He's winning out on this trade right now. The Absconder Duck does not connect. Quacker is going to get the solo kill over Dr. Calculus in the top lane.
And I guess we're seeing how the Sylas kind of matches into the Udyr. If you land all your skill shots, you actually out-damage and sustain pretty decently. We saw the ults kind of being traded. The critical part of that statement, though, the conditional part, was if you land your skill shots. And Quacker managed to dodge out on a lot of that from Dr. Calculus, ends up basically winning the trade. It's really, really close, though, and as you pointed out, that's with an Oblivion Orb. That's with the heal cut already applied. The skilling makes this kind of dicey, and I'm curious for how much longer Quacker can maintain this this strength in the top side, because he doesn't even really have a lead. He's down CS up against Dr. Calculus.
Interesting. I wonder what the rest of the build ends up looking like. I feel like there's some Udyrs that go for a bit more of a hybrid build with like the Leandries. Some go for just full tank. It looks like we are going to see a bit of both here for Quacker here, as he has, of course, the Negatron Cloak as well as that Oblivion Orb. Don't think we're going to be finishing that Morello anytime soon. Just making sure we have that Grievous Wounds, but still a lot in the air in terms of what Quacker is going to buy first.
Yeah, that's basically the Sylas text. Especially if you're a melee into Sylas, you do need to buy some sort of heal cut right from the get-go, because that's what Sylas does. In the mid lane, a lot of times Sylas will trade his health for your mana, and if he trades kind of even there, he'll be able to sustain back up. So getting any sort of heal cut to stop him from being able to make those trades effectively is key. And Quacker obviously has the experience, has the knowledge of how to do that. We are seeing Bio now look into the top side a little bit as well. He is snuck into the bush. There's no camps for him to steal away, and Kryra is going to be heading up here just because of the timing of the camps.
Yeah, a bit of a quiet game from Bio so far on his signature Graves pick. Remember, his only kill was that dive that Kryra attempted underneath his tower that resulted in a 1-for-1. But now they're looking for a play onto Dr. Calculus. They land the stun onto him, but he procs the stolen Udyr ultimate. He's just going to get one shot. Bio bursts down instantaneously as a teleport comes in from Sushi. He wants to make it a more even fight. Satchel Charge lands onto Calculus. The bomb is cancelled by the Lamb's Respite, and Otter with the Spirit Rush is going to try to finish off some of these kills. Charm goes wide. Nice dodges coming out from Team 2, but Zyko is looking for the kill. He will make it a 1-for-1 as he lands the Ignite onto Sushi, and Darkwings teleports himself, looking for the kill onto Utter, who now is trying to just find a trade, but Quacker will not fall. He's just too damn tanky.
Super clutch from Kryra with that Lamb's Respite spot on to make the fight look good for Team 1, but it might have baited them a little bit too far, and Zyko not landing the Pike ultimate. Unfortunately, that literally got him killed. Levitate trying to trade out with Bio, winning that, but DumDum's here to join.
Oh, nice buffer, but it's not going to matter as DumDum with the Ignite still had vision over Levitate and the Rocket Trap. Bio nearly dies with the Acathian Rain, but it will not be enough as DumDum picks it up.
That was almost a moment right there when DumDum rocket grabbed Levitate into Bio. Bio was probably like, okay, that's not necessarily the play we wanted to see happen. Did still have to flash, is still fine. Zyko gets hooked again.
I think we have realized, RMC, how our Zyko died the first time when he was off camera. Probably something like that, although on the bottom side.
Yeah, you know what? I would not be surprised. That would make a lot of sense. And I guess we also understand why Zyko wasn't the Maryville support who was known for his Pike at the end of the day. It was shitty, after all. Now, the game is pretty even when all said and done. Team 2 managed to come back from those early deaths very, very well. They are now leading in terms of kills, up a little bit in terms of gold as well. They split the Void Grubs, so we're not going to see any Voidlings this game. And it looks like they might be setting up for the Dragon as well.
Spawning now Bio in some trouble as Zyko lands a nice Bone Skewer onto him. Collateral damage used to extend the gap, I should say, from him and the rest of his opposition as Quacker backs in the Tri-Brush. Now Zyko in a bit of a sticky situation, waiting for that E to come back up, but I don't think it's going to be enough as he goes down again for the 4th time. Bio picking up the kill.
And watching Zyko go down is actually really rough for the side of Team 1. It's not just the hook, it's the additional execute damage.
Oh, Charm lands on the Sushi. That's a ton of damage onto the Ziggs. Calculus steals away the Silent Salt, buys enough space for Utter to shut him down. A nice usage of the ultimate. Even though the damage didn't connect on the Mega Inferno Bomb, Calculus forced Sushi to walk up into Utter to finish off the kill.
Honestly, not terrible from Sushi either. He does ultimately go down, but he did force the flash to come through from Utter to be able to secure that one. Unfortunately, his death will also signal the Dragon going over. Zyko did respawn, despite being the first person to get picked in that series of events, and Kryra will be the one to lock up this Dragon. One thing about Kryra as well, one thing to quickly note, 5 stacks already for the Kindred mark, so has been doing a fantastic job securing those marks.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of this Champions kit. So shout out to Kryra right now in this one with a bit of an advantage over Bio, at least in the farm department, as well as having the better KDA, at least, so to speak. That's the 5 marks that you were talking about. Means you're going to have that extra range, getting even closer to that next threshold as well. So a lot of blood has already been shed. Here's Calculus on the flank. Finds the Escond Duct onto DumDum. That should just be the Blitzcrank falling, as all 5 members of Team 1 are in the mid lane to make sure that they have priority there and are going to continue that push.
What's interesting to me is a lot of times that collapse should be leading to some sort of objective, but because Quacker and Sushi were both pushing at the same time, they can't instantly go for Herald. And if Quacker doesn't die here, that Herald is still in question.
It looks like he will, though. The trade is you get 2 towers. You know, Quacker gets one on the top side, Sushi gets one with the Satchel Charge down bottom. That is the trade that they make in regards to allowing for DumDum to die in the mid lane, as Team 1 used a lot of their resources to make sure that kill was secured. Here's Utter now, onto Darkwings, trying to find that charm, as Darkwings with a nice flash will get away. But the trade, of course, on the other side will be that Rift Herald gets picked up by Kryra.
Okay, I know that at this level of play, people expect everybody to have really good hands and really good mechanics. But can I just say, I've been super impressed by the way everybody's been dodging skill shots left and right. Like, how many hooks have missed? How many times have people gotten away because they're able to just dodge out left and right and make sure that the full damage doesn't land. And it's both teams who are doing this, so very, very impressed. Like every player literally has done this game.
It's a fun one. We're back and forth, but
Yeah.
you know, the gold's still less than 1,000 separating the two of them. And like able to get away from that rocket grab. More engages here. That's what we like to see here on this last day of the Combine. Mega Inferno Bomb will take Zyko down. Levitate doing a lot of damage in response,
Watch for the hook.
but unable to finish
There's
off
the
the
hook.
close gap. Another hook lands under the tower. Darkwing's there to pick it up as he is on a killing spree. Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, Quacker just outplayed a 1v2, looking to make it a 1v3 as Kryra joins the fray. Here comes the teleport. Looks like it's going to be Sushi, putting in a little bit of extra assistance as the ramp stance comes out from Quacker and forces Calculus and Kryra to run for the hills.
Yeah, Bai was running up to reinforce them. Might still be able to find a catch as he walks into 3.
Oh, he didn't see him for a while. Looks like Bai was tabbed out or something like that, and it looks like it was going to be instead Zyko picking up the kill with the Fear Beyond Death. Will be, or sorry, not the Death from Below, I should say, on the pike. 23 kills in 17 minutes. He nearly had another one as Zyko had a flash out.
Okay, now Zyko might be looking for a hook of his own, but his team does not want to back him up on this play. We've had enough action for now. They'd like to look for the reset. Or I lied. Zyko still looking? Okay, never mind. Quacker is back to base. A lot of chaos going back and forth. Let's talk about Quacker for a little bit, because a lot of tension focused up to the top side wasn't able to quite convert the kill. Quacker has been getting a ton of pressure, where we've seen Dr. Calculus roam out to help the team. Quacker's just been pushing, and that means he got most of the plates on that top side. He got the gold solo up on that top side as well, and that's what's making him such an annoying split push threat right now. Yes, Dr. Calculus can match him, but even then, it's really hard for him to push out, and there's nobody who can really very effectively answer this Udyr right now.
Steve Utter can do it. Didn't work out so well for him last time he tried to do so, as Quacker's pretty strong. 4-2-1. It is the Leandries build for him, as we'll see if he goes more into tank, maybe a Force of Nature with his next item, or if he instead indexes into something else a little bit more damage-oriented. We got that Cloud Dragon spawning in a minute. It's like neither side is super interested about it just yet. As we see Quacker has bought a lot of MR. Let's see if the two AD champions can do anything about it. With Zyko and Kryra on the way. Nice buffer
Catch him
to
first.
prevent that hook from doing anything. Will allow him to get out safely. And now the trade on the other side will be Dum Dum flashing over the minion wave to look to shut Otter down. Bio picks up the gold.
Yeah, those split pushes were not the same.
Oh.
She was in trouble. Levitate the flash
Yeah,
over to
follows the flash.
secure that.
That was easy.
It's just that easy. Yeah. Oh, Quacker's still here.
Okay. Kryra drops the Rift Herald. I don't know what Quacker is still doing here, as he will get punished pretty easily, as now Calculus gets to drive this Rift Herald straight into his turret and take down this tier 1. All that hard work from Quacker on the top side not going to pay off, as now Bio is in the enemy jungle and will get shut down by Levitate.
I'm gonna be fully honest here, Gibbs. I'm starting to lose control or lose. I don't know what's happening in the game anymore.
Yeah, they're trying to have some fun a little bit here in this one. As we've got the Portal Combat now. I thought Zyko was going to try to finish him off, but instead he ends up dashing away like a coward, going back to base here. Calculus picking up the tier 2, and he'll be able to dash away safely. Nicely done there by Team 1, using 2 Rift Herald procs to get both of those towers down on the top side.
Yeah, massive pushback, and I'm glad they managed to donate some of that solo gold a little bit towards Dr. Calculus. Get this Silas online, because we can see how much damage, how big of a threat he can be. And I do feel like they needed some sort of scaling threat. We're seeing Darkwing starting to run away with this game. 219 CS first over 200. It's not the lethality build either, nor the static shift. It's straight up damage. The Essence Reaver with Navori Quick Blades. That's a devastating team fight build if he gets to free fire.
So it will be Team 1 blocking down this dragon, puts them at soul point. That's the one advantage that they've had so far in this game, RMC. It's, you know, the gold is dead even, the kills are basically straight on, but they have the 3 drakes, and that Cloud Soul is not necessarily a super popular soul, but I think on the champion that, you know, Team 1 has, it's going to be pretty useful.
Yeah, and given how many skill shots you've got to dodge, that stacking movement speed might actually make the difference. We literally saw it make the difference in the 1v1 up top between Dr. Calculus and Quacker earlier on. We've seen Darkwings get away with a hair of health because of his ability to juke left and right. Dr. Calculus
Speaking
getting
of
run down
that,
by Quacker.
here they go again. Quacker just going to try to shut Dr. Calculus down, but instead he was just running away. Calculus after dying that first time, now 2-1-5, so he's put himself right back into this game himself, as we see more trading in the mid lane. This is like, I don't even know, this is like the last day of the last game of scrims, when, you know, you're trying to, you're just like, I want to go home. It seems like some players, not necessarily saying that about these guys right now, obviously. They all want to win, they all want to improve, they all want to be, of course, invited to that combine, but they're playing a little looser. What can I say?
For sure, and we don't know what the coaches might have told them as well. Maybe the coaches said, get in there with these compositions, look for those trades. A lot of these champions have a lot of agency, to be fair, right? And even the champions which don't have a lot of agency, things like the Sivir and the Ziggs, Darkwings and Sushi have been able to make plays of their own already, which I think speaks very well to the individual players. Now, the thing is, I would like to see the team slow down a little bit and get a little bit more macro. Maybe it's just me. I was struggling to kind of follow what the teams were looking for. It just felt like a lot of chaos and fighting. But there are some objectives you can look at right now. Baron, obviously being set up right now. But setting up your side lane pushes properly, I think, would be massive. Instead of having your top laners having to respond out to all sorts of things, or just having them up without vision, like we've seen from Quacker and Dr. Calculus a couple of times.
See Quacker still on the bottom side, but he does have his teleport in case any Baron fight ends up erupting. I would be very surprised if that becomes the case anytime soon, just because the gold is so close. I think our next big engage, or a big chance at a 5v5, will likely be around that next dragon that spawns in about 3 minutes, just because obviously it would be the Cloud Soul for Team 1.
And just because you said that, Grapes, we're gonna cast a curse.
Yeah, we're gonna team fight right now. I'm hungry for more. That's what we're doing. Hey, 28 kills in 22 minutes. That's pretty good. I think we were close to that ratio last game.
Yeah, the games have been fairly bloody, but I think this one is probably one of the... yeah, last game was also pretty close. This one, I think, might be a little bit closer than what we saw last game because it ended like 25 minutes. So one fight could very well spell the end of the game if it's done right, especially with the pushing power that Team 2 has.
Looks like right now, just some posturing in the mid lane as we've opened up a bit of an NA ramp. Dum looks for the flash hook onto Utter. He was forced to flash in response. That's a trade that you will take, given that Dum has that Hex Flash and can continue to look for aggressive plays.
And I like this from Team 2. They've slowed it down. They're around Baron. They get there first, and they're clearing out the vision. With the hook champions in the game, vision is king right now. Being able to force them out is huge. Other no flash.
Oh, just barely dodging away. That's that Cloud Drake maybe playing a little bit of a part. As Darkwings gets hooked up by the absconded Duck, but it's a 1-for-1 trade as Bio makes it back onto Dr. Calculus. Utter picks up Dum. It's now a 4v3. Charm just goes wide, but the hook lands onto Bio. Not enough to follow up just yet, as it's the blue team hovering under their turret, making sure that nobody else goes down.
Yeah, and we talked about Team 2 having the ability to push and take turrets very rapidly. Team 1, unfortunately, not quite the same situation. Kaisa a bit short range, Kindred as well at this point in the game. Not the easiest to kind of really take turrets with, and trying to do so into the wave clear of either a Sivir, which is dead right now, or the Ziggs that Sushi's piloting is really rough. So for Team 1, good pick, considering that they lost control of the Baron pit, but they really need the Baron, it feels like, or more kills to be able to get anything substantial on the map.
So right now it's going to be instead a reset, and as we say, maybe the caster curse doesn't end up paying off this time. Looks like we're going to fight around that dragon in 45 seconds. Red team already there pretty quickly, but instead we might see a bit of a Nuno reverse card here, as Team 2 says, you guys can have the Cloud Soul, that thing sucks, we'll take the Baron instead.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't come back to bite them with the split push potential that Asilas has later on. Sushi almost really getting caught up. Yeah, that flash was absolutely critical.
To the back of the satchel charge, and now I think it might be too late for the red team to show up to the Baron. It's getting chunked down very low. Only Zyko's in the area. That's just gone. Before the dragon even spawns, it looks like Team 1 were caught out trying to position around that dragon just a little bit too early. Team 2 caught them off guard.
Yeah, I love the willingness for Team 2 to make these sort of snap plays. Now they're collapsing in for this dragon. Keep in mind that they showed a willingness to abandon the Cloud Soul the first time. If they don't like the odds, they can always just abandon that and go for a push. Dr. Calculus looking for the flag TP.
It's going to be a while until he gets there, but when he does, it can be impactful. It's going to be the dragon secured by Team 2, as here comes Calculus on the flank. He steals him with a static field, does a lot of damage, but he does end up going down. It's a 1-for-1 as Dum falls, but I think that'll be just about it. Darkwings in the mid lane to try and push out this wave with the Baron buff, and he will be able to get out alive. Bio on the red buff right now. Zyko still looking for a bit of a trade. Looks like that will not be enough to shed blood just yet. Quacker, last one over the wall. The Mega Inferno Bomb. Zyko just barely unable to get into the range of the Lamb's Respite. And that means that he will go down an extended 2 for 1, plus the Dragon for Team 2.
And for Team 2, the play is not over yet. Don't forget, they got a Baron before all this chaos around the Dragon started, and they need to push with it. They've still got some time. Only about 1 minute and 20 seconds has been used so far. Darkwings, though, not walking in with this wave. And Dr. Calculus and Levitate, okay, Levitate didn't go that way, but Dr. Calculus is going to get there in time, so this turret might not fall.
Yeah, Darkwings playing Sivir. You know, there are some other champions like a Tristana or something that is an AD carry, but you can side lane with it a little bit more effectively. Very vulnerable is the Sivir, especially against, you know, a Sylas who can just jump on top of her, even though she is about 2 levels ahead of anybody else in the game on the other team. Gonna wait for the rest of the team to show up instead. And this is solid play here so far from Team 2. What can they do off of this Baron power play? They already won one fight. Can they win another as they take down the tier 2 in the top side? Dum Dum dodging away from a lot of the damage that Utter had to offer. And so it will be Team 1 headed back to their base.
Without the charm landing, they don't quite have enough. CC Hook just barely tickles the back of Zyko, but Zyko doesn't have to burn anything significant to get out. Quacker trying to push in the mid lane right now, but the waves have been somewhat desynced, and Team 2 can't actually provide the support for Quacker to split push effectively mid.
Now it's going to be Quacker, maybe caught out a little bit here as Calculus and Zyko combine for the execution. But the trade on the other side will be that top lane inhibitor turret as Sushi just blows it up with the satchel charge. This could be Team 1's opportunity. They have enough advantage, and the charm lands on to that player. Darkwings will go down, but he takes down Utter first. Dum Dum will make it another one as look at Kryra on the backside. Zyko will finish it off, and it's an ace for the red team.
And that was a choice that Team 2 made to push in. They saw Quacker getting caught, and they decided, we will try and take the inhibitor. Problem is, you're so deep into enemy territory that pick onto Quacker means they are behind you. And that was a one-way trip. They get the inhibitor turret, but not the inhibitor. They give over a whole bunch of kills, and now Team 1 is firmly in the lead with honestly a team that skills really, really well. The Sylas is online. Kryra is online, as you're talking about. 8, 1, and 8 to boot, and Levitate now getting more kills under his belt. A little bit ahead of Sushi. The threat for them, or the ability for them, for Team 1 to be able to shut down any sort of split push from Team 2 is starting to come into play.
You know, RMC, we had a really back and forth, or sorry, we had 2 really one-sided games, I should say, to start this day off. I'm glad that we get to end with a more competitive one, a more exciting one here. We've got another set of buffs spawning in about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. That Baron and the Cloud Dragon. That could, again, be the soul for Team 1. After that fight, RMC, they're back up about 3,000 gold.
Yeah, and the side lane setup, I think, for the upcoming objectives is going to be massive. The fact that inhibitor turret's already down for Team 1 on that top side against a Sivir and a Ziggs does mean that you are vulnerable to getting Nexus rushed if you set up inappropriately and go for an objective that you're not allowed to go for. The same is to a lesser degree true for Team 1. Like, the split push from Kryra can be strong, but you're a jungler, you can't be too far out. And Dr. Calculus can still be a massive split push threat, so I'd love to see Dr. Calculus being set up to actually apply that pressure. I think he should be able to handle Quacker 1v1 at this point of the game.
And now Team 2 pushing aggressively with the wave clear that they have with the Ziggs Sivir. Then it'll be on the other side, Team 1 looking for a flank and a potential collapse. Retreat back to the Dragon Pit. Spawns in about 40 seconds, but this time there's no Baron to take right now because it hasn't spawned yet. Go back to the mid lane. Looks like both teams controlling vision in different areas of the map. The red team around the Baron, and for the blue team around the Dragon.
What's worth noting as well, Utter used Spirit Rush. I didn't see if you're trying to dodge something with it, but it is not available. So if you're going for the Dragon fight, you'll be down a big ultimate. I like the call from Team 1 saying that, yeah, don't fight this right now, we just learned an ultimate. Set up for the Baron instead. We are already at soul point. This is only second Drake for Team 2. Yeah, Cloud Drake stacking can potentially be dangerous, but I don't think they need to be worried necessarily about a soul anywhere at this point. The Baron is a much bigger objective to be able to fight over, and the setup is therefore that much more important as well.
Yeah, I mean, Team 2 obviously knew that they had to go for the Dragon, otherwise it would be soul for Team 1. Team 1 has the luxury of being able to give that one away, and now they are playing Fnatic Rush here. around the mid lane. Anybody who walks too far forward has the risk of getting hooked by Zyko. Instead, it's Calculus who throws out the Abscond Abduct. Sushi joining the fight with Teleport, and we are here for a 5v5 in the mid lane. Utter dash has Spirit Rush off a cooldown, finds a charm onto Dum Dum, forces him to flash out. Collateral damage does a lot, the health bars are low, and now it's Team 2 chasing down Team 1. Darkwings gets one. They're underneath the tower. It's a 1,000 gold shutdown picked up for Quacker, and that's all that it's going to take. They have enough turret damage. They are stacked as 5, and it'll be Team 2 probably trying to close out this third game of the Combine.
Yeah, looking to be able to punch this one in. Zyko and Levitate trying to do their best to hold this. They can't get the minions to TP to keep the Siege Minion alive.
Yes, the hero uses the ultimate, but gets hooked, has to flash away. 1v1 Bio and wins, but there's still 4 more champions hitting onto the enemy nexus at the same time, and that will do it. Team 2, that's the block. They win it 2-1 here on this Wednesday, day number 10 of the Path2Pro Combine.
And Grapes, what a great game to end that on. Not only was it so incredibly close throughout, but it was a feast for the eyes in terms of the kills going back and forth, sort of the mechanics that were on display early. Later on, the patience that we're seeing, the good macro setups that were coming through from both of these teams. I mean, a little bit more macro probably to be worked on by the coaches there, but I did like that they cleaned it up towards the end, and the way the last fight kind of went down to it was just clutch. It was just one fight to decide it. Team 2, I think, getting a little bit too hypey, looking for, or pardon, Team 1 on the blue side got a little bit too hypey, trying to force the engage then. You called collateral damage from Bio. I'd say as a whole, Team 2, that was their modus operandi in that last fight. The Udyr ultimate just doing damage, dissuading enemy from engaging. The Sivir damage that came through as well. You can see in terms of the damage charts that, yeah, Darkwings quietly just pumping out the most damage with those bouncing boomerangs just hitting across the entire enemy team.
Yeah, part of me wonders, like, if Team 1 was a little bit, if Team 2, sorry, was a little bit, too aggressive in terms of looking for that fight. They had a good setup around the Baron.
Yeah.
They could have forced Team 1 to, or sorry, Team 2. I'm getting the team.
Red side, blue side.
Yeah. If you're on that red team, you start up that Baron, you force the blue team to come into you. And maybe that's a better solution than throwing out a lot of spells, Utter jumping in front and trying to face tank a lot of players to look for an engage. But instead, did not end up happening, and it will be the team with, of course, Quacker, Bio, Darkwing Sushi, / Good Boy, and Dum Dum taking a set 2-1.
Yeah, and you know what? Wins, losses, not as important as what the players have shown. And one thing I really did appreciate from this game too as well was the unique picks we saw. The Silas into the Udyr choice coming through from Dr. Calculus. They might have lost, but I did like the idea, and it seemed to execute really well. Darkwing Sivir answering to the Ahri as well. That one I absolutely loved and adored. It did so incredible much work. Well-deserved win from Darkwings. And with that, Grapes, that's the second last day of the Combine before the cuts are coming in, or the first set of cuts are coming in. So we still have games tomorrow on Halloween itself. I believe we've got a one block that will be cast by Kangas and Hawk.
So it'll be at, I think, 4 p.m., same time as this one. Make sure you tune in. It'll be another fun day with some more fun players here at the Cydo Path2Pro Combine. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow for another good day of League of Legends.